The chubby boy swings his sword around, wild and desperate. He's tired of being ignored. He's done with the shadows. But one moment of pure carelessness, he trips over his own weight. The sword slips, arcs through the air, and pierces deep, right through his gut. That is how the bariatric surgery started. Did he die? Maybe he did. It's hard to tell. But that fat bum is about to become a ruthless, terrifying prince. He'll beat his own brother to a bloody pulp without a second thought. He even gets engaged to a stunning 1,000-year-old elf. Besides being drop-dead gorgeous, she is something else entirely. She is easily one of the strongest fighters in the entire kingdom. After that day with the blade, he changed into a different person. And you want to know why? Here is the real twist. The true main character of this story isn't the chubby boy. It's the sword, the one that just impaled him. This blade has had many owners over the last few centuries. It is the weapon that forged every hero in the history books. Through the ages, it even found a real friend. A boy born in a tiny, forgotten village named Leonberger. Together, they did the impossible, something no one else could. They hunted down and defeated a giant dragon in the frozen mountains. After that epic victory, Leonberger became the sovereign of the land. Meanwhile, Gruhan, that legendary dragon-slaying sword, was put away. He carried one final request: watch over the hero's descendants. That is when he finally woke up from his long, deep sleep. Some total idiot was swinging him around like a toy. The fat boy shouted that he was going to be the new master. Gruhan, legendary and proud, just felt pure, cold annoyance. Then the boy swung him again with that same violent, shaky grip. Gruhan activated his ancient ability, scanning the wielder. He realized the truth. This boy is a descendant of his old friend, even if he is basically a pig that walks on two legs. This fat one just wants recognition from the stuck-up nobles, and maybe enough food to refill his lunch plate 8 times over. He thought he could buy that respect with Gruhan's legendary power. But after swinging the blade for a few minutes, he loses balance. He trips over his own gut and crashes into the dirt. Now watch this, the moment everything goes wrong for him. He never imagined the sword would perform surgery on his own stomach. Descendant of his old friend or not, this is getting ridiculous. You have to admit, he earned the title of the dumbest guy around. He is still lying there on the floor, blaming the sword for it all. We have to admit this guy earned the title of the dumbest character we have ever seen. He actually stayed there blaming a sword. Because of that blunder, he needs to be locked up without food to see if he drops some weight. One faction pushed for him as king, all for his greed and his arrogance. Meet Prince Adrian Leonberger, gluttonous and stupid. But everything shifted the moment he impaled himself on a blade. Rumors flew fast. Suddenly, he stopped acting like a total disaster. No more smashing up the dining tables. No more running with bandits. But inside that room, the internal monologue was a different story. Gruhan was genuinely shocked. He had just killed his friend's descendant, and now he was trapped inside the guy's body. Whether he liked it or not, he was the rebellious prince. Oh, and a total pig too. Can't forget that part. Rodolfo está muerto, he muttered, just as the maid warned him. His master had arrived for a visit, but he was annoyed. That master never showed his face before. Why come now? The master, meanwhile, realized the prince was as insufferable as ever. He only showed up to tick a box and fulfill his duty. But the chubby prince didn't even recognize his own teacher. He played the amnesia card, using the accident as a perfect shield. Suddenly, the vassals announced the king had finally arrived. The king, this pig's own father, stormed into the room. Adrian was floored. The man looked far more imposing than he imagined. The king just assumed nothing changed since Adrian didn't even stand. But word traveled fast that the prince had lost his memories. The doctor arrives soon after, checking him over for any real issues. Nothing physical, besides those 300 pounds of weight. Maybe it's just a temporary side effect of the psychological shock. The king wasn't buying it. He called it way too convenient. None of his past sins would just vanish because he forgot them. He's staying locked in this castle until further notice. No more wandering, and definitely no more food until he drops weight. The king wanted answers about what his son had actually done. Right then, the queen hugged Adrian, whispering that he must be confused. She seemed convinced his memory would come back soon enough. You could see the gap in treatment between the mother and father. She told him how happy she was to see him finally wake up. But get this, she warned him to stay away from dangerous things. Anyway, he wanted answers about what that guy had done. At that very moment, his mother pulls Adrian into a tight hug. She tells him he must be confused, but his memory should return soon. Right away, you could already spot the massive difference in treatment between the father and the mother. My guy hears her say how happy she is to see him waking up like this. She warns him he must never touch dangerous things anymore. She adds that everything will clear up in a day, but only if he allows it. She turns to ask the maid if there is any more of that medicine left. A few days fly by, and our main character is overjoyed. He is finally going to be able to create a mana heart. She has no idea what she would have done without him. If he hadn't woken up, poor thing, honestly. She doesn't even know her own son is already dead. There's nothing that can be done for him now, is there? A little later, his mother promises to visit him soon. She tells him to get plenty of rest for now. Adrian is just trying to process everything that's happened. His friend begged him to take care of his descendants, and he ended up killing one of them. Even if it wasn't intentional, it's still on his hands. It happened, and there's just no changing that fact. He decides he'll have to live well for his friend's sake. Before this, he reincarnated as a sword cleaning up messes. And now, he's trapped in this fat body with zero talent. Doesn't matter. He'll just use brute force again. He's trained plenty of kids. He knows the drill. First things first, he needs to refine that mana heart. He starts pulling mana from the air, feeling his heart pulse. Suddenly, the magic snaps. The chubby kid realizes mana flows. But this body, it can't handle the pressure at all. He tries again, but nothing works. What kind of body is this? In his old form, he could force the mana right through. Right then, a maid appears with special medicine from the queen. She looks sour, clearly expecting him to throw the cup again. But Adrian is surprised. He senses mana inside that drink. He doesn't waste a second and downs the whole thing. The maid is stunned. He actually drank every drop. He summons his mana heart once more. Thank goodness, it's finally starting to work. It's still far too little, and it will dissipate by tomorrow. That only happens if he lets it, though. He asks the maid if there's any more of that medicine. A few days pass, and he's feeling absolutely overjoyed. He's finally about to successfully create a mana heart. He's done this 1,000 times before. But out of nowhere, pain rips through his body. Suddenly, a flashback. He had done this many times before in the past. Then, out of nowhere, pain slams through the kid's body. A sudden flashback hits him, starving, suffering until the chubby kid could not take it anymore. First of all, he has to adapt to being human again. A little later, the kid's mother is thrilled that he drank every drop of the medicine. She praises him for finally valuing his own body. And at that exact moment, someone else steps into the room. His mother asks if he recognizes the man standing before him. Adrian recalls the truth forming a mana heart brings pure, agonizing pain. And to make it worse, he can't even black out, not for a second. If he loses consciousness, all that raw mana will just reverse. It would destroy him from the inside out. The boy pushes through, focusing everything he has left into the core. The process of forging his mana heart finally kicks into high gear. A short while later, he looks like he's actually pulled it off. With the dust finally settling, Adrian realizes the weight of it. This isn't just some tool for a master. This heart is his alone. And just like that, A system window flashes into his vision. The mana heart is complete. Adrian stares at the screen, feeling a strange sense of déjà vu. These messages, they look exactly like the ones he sent his old owners, back when he was nothing more than a sword. He wonders why the system is pinging him now. But he doesn't have much time to think before more alerts flood in. A connection to the origin is being restored. He starts getting stat buffs, but a few key skills remain locked. He takes a breath and looks around the room. His vision is sharper, clearer than it's ever been. His ears are even better. He can hear movement right outside his door. But then, reality hits. The system warns his mana is completely empty. Adrian finally understands his new limits. That absolute sword sense that saw everything in every direction, it's gone. It's not part of this human body. Right now, he can catch whispers or see a bit further with a tiny spark. But if he grows his capacity, things will definitely change, right? For now, though, he's stuck, he's starving, and this body is failing him. He's got to learn how to be human first. Soon, his mother walks in, thrilled he drank every drop of the medicine. She's relieved he's finally starting to value his own health. Then, someone else steps into the room. His mother asks if he recognizes the man standing there. The guy sighs, remarking that the boy really must have lost his memories. The queen steps in. She says it's time her brother helped the child. The newcomer replies that the boy really must have lost his memory. The queen chins up and says her brother should help out the child. Thoughts are racing through his head as he tries to process what just happened. He wants to know where on earth the boy learned to refine a mana heart. Apparently, the kid does not even realize what he did wrong. After all, a mana heart is a low-level technique that only fifth-rate mercenaries use. And then, my friend, of course the kid had no clue. The man stares hard at the main character while the brat keeps right on eating. The brat demands to know who that idiot is sitting across from him. The knight right at his side leans in to whisper the truth in his ear. After all, he is his only nephew, right? Adrian watches the situation unfold, and he gets it. Just by looking at the man, you can tell. He doesn't like him, not one bit. And then the man speaks. He makes it clear right away the only thing he'll do is help him lose some of that weight. That is it. He can't do anything beyond that, so don't get hopes up. The queen steps in. That is enough. A little later, our protagonist is really suffering in training. His uncle drops the hammer. From now on, eating, drinking, even breathing, all require his permission. If he expects princely treatment, he needs to give that up. The only thing left for him is to work hard. But if he changes his mind, he might even teach him a little bit of the family's secret swordsmanship. Hearing that, the boy is absolutely furious. He wants to teach the instructor who taught the invincible knight, the very master of that country's founding king. So he throws out a challenge. They should make a bet. In 6 months, he will make him acknowledge him. He thinks he needs to break that arrogant look once and for all. If he fails, he'll do anything the old man says. But if he succeeds, he has to grant one of his wishes. The old man is surprised, but ends up accepting. He needs something to entertain himself with anyway. Adrian thinks he spoke well, but that big body doesn't help. He has no choice. He'll have to use mana. First, he needs to burn the fat from his entire body. The old man keeps watching, then immediately smacks the kid. He asks if he actually created a mana heart. Now watch this. Here is where the dynamic shifts. Adrian smiles and says he did it not long ago. He asks if the uncle already regrets the bet. But the old man is actually questioning his sanity. He wants to know where he learned to refine a mana heart. Adrian does not even realize what he did wrong. After all, he thinks a mana heart is a low-level technique, just something that fifth-rate mercenaries learn. And then, of course, the kid realizes he messed up. It turns out to be the third prince. Right after that, the preppy royal chimes in with a snarky comment. He claims he heard about the accident, But unfortunately, the prince looks more intact than expected. The main character fires back without missing a beat. Looks like the prince has nothing better to do. That is a basic technique only bottom-tier mercenaries ever use. And my friend, of course, the kid did not even blink. He can't make sense of a thing, thinking this is it, the end of the road. He asks what that old man means. The old man just smirks, says it's faster to show him. He tells the boy to watch the movement carefully. Our main character is stunned, that right there. It is basically raw mana formed into a perfect ring. The energy starts swelling, growing larger by the second. It shatters his own mana, and the old man speaks up. He explains that this current has a special property. It is designed to destroy the sword energy of a heart. Besides that, it is much more stable than a mana heart. Way easier to handle, too. Even Count Eli's family, the ones who swore by the heart, they fell completely 100 years ago. Now, nobody even touches that ability anymore. Time keeps moving, and our boy stays buried in his books. He is realizing just how much the world has changed. Mages use circles, while knights weave currents to grab mana. A knight's rank depends on how many currents they can weave. It's all about the count, from a single current all the way up to 5. Honestly, it doesn't seem all that absurd. As he keeps flipping through the pages, a name jumps out. Altringen, the boy freezes, totally caught off guard. He remembers a guy from ages ago who used a weird style. A technique that wasn't for a swordsman, or even a mage. That man once came looking for him. The name sounds so familiar, it's almost haunting. He wonders what actually happened to that man. A while later, the protagonist is deep into his training. His uncle steps in, asking if he finished that book. By now, the boy should understand the situation perfectly, and how foolish his choice really was. But the kid, he's full of confidence. He doesn't think he made a single mistake. Not every man's heart is the same, is it? The uncle mocks him, asking if he even knows his levels. He wants to know what the kid is rambling about. Among mercenaries, there are plenty of fools just like him. They're just deluding themselves, dreaming that they're some heroes from centuries past. He asks the boy if he knows what happened to them. Every one of them couldn't even surpass 2 currents. They were utterly crushed and defeated. But if the boy thinks he's different, then he has to prove it. To beat a double current knight if he actually pulls it off. He will serve as his guardian, exactly as his mother wished. Our hero hears this and asks his uncle point blank, "Is having you as a guardian actually a good thing?" Everything goes dead silent. The uncle looks a bit annoyed. He snaps back, "Look at my status. I am a count. Commander of the Northern Army, one of the 5 Silver Lions. I serve His Majesty personally." The guy has endless titles. For Ring Knight 2, he says, plus a dozen more. I would list them all, but honestly, I am just too lazy. His name is Baal Valahar, and he demands to know the truth. Who on earth could possibly rank higher than a man like me? Are those credentials enough for you? He asks, fuming. At that exact second, every soldier raises their sword, telling Valahar to back off. This guy is a total beast. The 2 of them stand there, staring each other down. A short while later, the protagonist is completely drained. His uncle sighs and calls it, saying that is enough today. A few minutes pass and our hero walks through the castle. He is shaken, thinking he was almost killed back there. He opens a door, and someone is waiting inside for him. Adrian realizes it is the royal physician, looking humble. The man says he doesn't know what to do with His Highness. He wants to know exactly why Adrian came there today. The physician says the queen ordered healing magic on him. He starts the spell, but Adrian wastes absolutely no time. He throws the guy right out, slamming the door shut. That is basically tossing all his hard work in the trash. Now watch this. A knight watches everything from the shadows. He looks pretty surprised, clearly not expecting that reaction. Right then, a kid opens the door, asking for his brother. He glares at the protagonist while munching on some food. He wants to know who that total idiot is supposed to be. The knight whispers in his ear that it is the third prince. That preppy brat sneers, saying he heard about the accident. Unfortunately, it seems he was way more intact than expected. The protagonist says it seems the prince has nothing better to do. He just stares at the protagonist while the little brat sits there, busy stuffing his face, wondering who that total idiot is. The knight at his side leans in and whispers something. Right in his ear, he says that was the third prince. The preppy one pipes up, claiming he heard about the accident. It sounds like he suffered a fall, but unfortunately for them, the protagonist is looking way more intact than they expected. He just sighs, looks like the prince has nothing better to do. He asks if he really came all the way here just to provoke him. Damn, he is actually looking for a fight right now. The prince gets pissed, clearly thinking this guy is just a total idiot who stabbed a sword into his own body, then mentions he heard some pretty interesting news. Apparently he made a bet with Count Valahard and is even planning to duel a double current knight. And if that is the case, he wanted to know if he could be the one to step up as his opponent. Whoa, things are starting to heat up a little. Later on, Adrian wonders what that whole scene was just now. Are all of Leonberger's descendants really like that? Suddenly, the knight claims that Prince Guillaume has been famous for his natural talent with the sword since childhood. After all, having two rings at just 14 years old is a seriously impressive feat. At that very moment, a maid appears, saying that some letters have arrived for him. The kid has no idea what is going on, and then when he looks at the letters, every single one is a request to duel the boy. After all, it is a chance to beat up that idiot legally, right? Of course, our boy is not going to back down. Calling over the maid, he asks her to write down the names of every single one of those people. A short while later, the protagonist is training, and his uncle tells him to pick up the sword first. He has to master at least the basics for the bet to count, and he does not want to hear excuses later about losing just because he was too lazy to learn the basics. Accepting all that, Adrian picks up the sword from the ground, but he immediately feels something sharp, and my friend, that is just plain muscle pain. His uncle is surprised, asking if he had not received any healing magic. But then the protagonist says that as a knight, he should know very well that if he received that, his muscles would only return to their normal state and would not actually grow. Hearing that, Valahard simply accepts it in silence and then picks up the sword, saying he will not show it many times, so he has to pay close attention. This is the training style that the kingdom's knights learn when building their core foundation. Then he begins to demonstrate the swordsmanship with all his veteran skill. Man, the guy really is good. The protagonist can only watch in awe. He looks up, stunned by what his uncle just blurted out. Apparently, this is the basic swordsmanship every knight in the kingdom studies. Valhalla claims that because it is so faithful to the fundamentals, there is truly no better style for someone to start with. And with the boy's natural talent, he insists it is more than enough. Hearing that, the protagonist immediately lets out a sharp laugh. Even after all this time, the irony is just too much. The very sword style that once took down the mad dragon, now treated as nothing more than a simple training routine. Honestly, it is impressive in its own twisted way. His uncle adds that, naturally, this alone won't be enough to win the bet. After mastering the basics, he will still need to hire another master. But the boy just shakes his head. There is no need for that. He isn't going to waste time learning some other style. This one is already enough, right? The man is taken aback, but shrugs it off. He tells him to do whatever he wants, as long as he doesn't waste time. Our hero starts training, still marveling at the situation. To think the legendary dragon-slaying sword is treated as an insignificant drill. He hates to admit it, but it makes sense why they can't see the truth. That style carries the intense, singular will required to actually cut down a dragon. But since everyone abandoned their mana hearts and forgot how to infuse a blade, they simply lack the eyes to recognize the dragon-slaying sword's true value. Suddenly, Valihar draws his own blade and blocks the protagonist's strike. You can't just shove strength into your arm and expect it to hit, he scoffs. At least he is actually teaching him the right way to hold it. He points to the boy's stance, correcting his form on the fly. You have to apply power through your entire body to wield it properly. The boy pulls himself back up, eyes burning with a new resolve. Even in this weak body, barely imitating a watered-down version, he is going to prove that this sword is not meant to be cast aside. It is not some worthless scrap to be ignored. And just like that, the days begin to blur together. Weeks pass by, and then a full month of grueling work. Finally, the system pings. He has officially changed his constitution. To wield the blade, you have to hear it, really listen. The boy just pulls himself up, over and over. He knows this new body is weak, pathetic, almost. It can barely mimic the movements of the fabled dragon-slaying sword. But he'll prove it. He'll show them. That sword isn't just scrap metal to be tossed aside. Days turn to weeks, then a full month drifts by. Suddenly, the system pings a notification glowing in the air. After that grueling, endless training, a breakthrough. He's actually managed to shift his very constitution. His massive, obese frame is finally shifting into something more ordinary. His metabolism is kicking into high gear, fueling this total change. His constitution is adapting, getting used to the relentless, repetitive grind. Day after day, he pushes his body through the same brutal motions. Slowly, you can see it. The guy is starting to look like a tank. He is wielding that sword with a natural flow he lacked just a month ago. He's getting noticeably stronger, too, with each passing day. But right at that moment, his furious uncle snaps. He told him to quit, and the boy's sword just drops to the dirt. An awkward, heavy silence fills the air. The protagonist's hand is already raw and bleeding from the sheer intensity. His uncle stalks over, eyes hard. Adrian glances away, toward the training dummy. It's completely shredded, like it was struck by a bolt of lightning. The uncle scoffs. If that had been a real blade, the kid wouldn't have survived the accident. Adrian listens in total silence. He stares at his hand, now covered in rough, hardened calluses. Suddenly, the system pings, informing him he has reached a state of extreme concentration. His body gives out instantly. He collapses, dead weight, hitting the ground hard. Valihar just watches his nephew grumbling that he is a complete idiot. But beneath the insults, you can see it. He is finally earning the man's respect. A short while later, our hero wakes up, dazed, realizing he had blacked out. Before this, he never knew the true limits of this body. As a sword, he had already achieved every possible accomplishment. He had been wielded by legendary heroes, bringing entire wars to glory. He had elevated the level of body and soul, guiding the path for so many others. His name was Gruhan, a wise advisor and an exceptional teacher. But his existence had always been that of a third party, a tool in another man's hand. That is why he kept swinging, pushing until he reached this breaking point. He was blinded by the sweat, the raw effort, and the results finally feeling like his own. If he keeps this up, this weak body will snap sooner or later. He needs to find some balance. It has already been a month since he started this journey. He's finally guiding his own path, finding his rhythm. A man named Gruhan, wise advisor, top-tier teacher. But in the grand scheme, he's just a third party. A side character watching from the sidelines, always. That's exactly why he keeps swinging, non-stop. Until he hits his limit, blinded by his own drive. The sweat, the agony, the results. He wants it all. Every bit of it, earned by his own two hands. But this body is hitting a wall. It's going to shatter. He needs to balance his power, or he's finished. It has been a month since he started this. With his mana heart stabilized, he's built up enough energy. The timing is perfect. He's ready for the next stage. The boy centers himself, pushing his focus to the limit. The system pings him. After that brutal training grind, he's hit a milestone. He's successfully stockpiled a massive amount of internal mana. Now his body can finally take the strain of the next level. Deep inside, his mana heart begins to stretch and grow. He snaps his eyes open. The training is finally paying off. You can see the shift. He's stronger, faster, just better. He's not slowing down, not wasting a single second. Naturally, the young man reaches straight for his blade. A notification flashes. He's officially reached Sword Apprentice rank. It's a huge step up, but he's just getting started. He's mastered the fundamentals now. Every basic move is locked in. And here's the kicker. He can finally manifest basic aura. Not long after, Adrian heads out to the training grounds. His uncle shows up, face twisted with concern. Rumors are tearing through the kingdom because of that insane bet. He's worried, asking if Adrian shouldn't just find an opponent fast. The pressure is mounting. The whole place is talking. Adrian just looks at him. He's already made his choice, but it's a death trap. Fighting double currents, that's suicide. His uncle warns him to stick to single current fighters first. It's a gamble, but he's got the strategy mapped out. You can tell he's calculated every single move he needs to make. Adrian signals the knight waiting nearby. The guy nods, confirming that everything is prepped and ready. Adrian reaches for the list. All the duel requests are in. The knight hesitates, asking if he's really sure about these practice bouts. Most of these people have a massive grudge against him. They'll jump at any chance to hurt him during the fight. But look at him. Our boy already has that covered. That's exactly why his uncle is acting as the judge. He isn't asking for someone to hold his hand. He just needs someone to stop anyone from actually dying. A simple request, really, just keep the blood off the floor. He asks if his uncle can handle that one little favor. Before you know it, the day passes and the moment arrives. The tension at the castle gate is absolutely suffocating. The first participant shows up, fuming at the sight of the prince. This is Taylor, the second son of some minor noble house. He's been nursing a hatred for years. It goes back to when the prince insulted his father and brother. An unforgettable slap to the face, and now Taylor wants his revenge. It's about to go down, and Taylor is here for blood. The family name was dragged through the mud, leaving his father and brother as total laughingstocks. The nobles never let them forget it. Because of that shame, my friend is here for one thing. He is going to make Adrian pay for everything he did that day. He steps forward and greets the prince, introducing himself clearly. He says his name is Taylor, a single current knight. Adrian just laughs it off, saying there is no need for formality. It is just a training match. After all, nothing official here. Even so, he cannot resist taking a jab at his opponent. He asks if this guy is really a knight at all. He looks so weak, Taylor immediately loses his cool. This guy is every bit as arrogant as the rumors claimed. Before he can snap, Valhalla steps in to calm things down. He understands the rage, but the duel has not even started. He asks him to pull back his aura for now. Taylor clearly admires Valhalla, bowing low and showing deep respect. It is an absolute honor to meet him, he says. Adrian watches this, annoyed that he is not the one being treated like royalty. His uncle scoffs. Maybe he should have behaved better in daily life. No matter, the duel begins now. The two stare each other down. Taylor ignites his aura and charges without wasting a single second. He flies straight at our boy, who calmly summons his mana heart. He manages to block the strike, holding his ground perfectly. Taylor stumbles back, shock written all over his face. He recognizes that sword style, but he cannot fathom the defense. He yells out that a mana heart cannot block a mana current. Adrian just smirks. asking if that is only true for low-level knights. The crowd goes silent, stunned by what they are witnessing. Valhalla watches intensely, recognizing this as the fabled Song of the Sword. Taylor still cannot believe his best attack was just deflected. He charges again, desperate to break through that iron defense. Adrian just watches his movements, tracing every single opening. He blocks the strike again, effortless and completely in control. They trade blows for a while, until Taylor starts gasping for air. Our boy is panting too, feeling the strain of the clash. People always say current mono is the total opposite of a heart. Now he knows it is true. The pressure is immense. It honestly feels like his own mana might backfire any moment. He shifts his stance, catching his breath to ask the next question. He's exhausted, chest heaving with every ragged breath. They say mana flow is the exact opposite of a heartbeat. And honestly, he feels like that's the cold truth. It's brutal. It feels like his mana is about to invert. A wrong move and it'll all start flowing backward. He shakes it off and asks, was he true to the sword? He claims he is the second son of Baron Talheim anyway. He needs to cool his head. He shuts his eyes tight. Entering a deep trance, the boy whispers something to awaken it. He truly believes this demonic blade is a piece of his soul. Right then, that massive dragon stirs and Adrian realizes the truth. This is the sword's own memory, the essence of a heart, specifically refined to hunt down dragons. This is the raw power of the legendary dragon-slaying sword. To think he is managing to pull this off in such a frail body. At the same time, that blessed power surges to the surface. Taylor is reeling, struggling to process the madness unfolding right there. Valhalla screams for them to stop the duel immediately. But my friend Adrian is not listening to a single word. He lunges at the boy out of nowhere. A quick flashback, the protagonist telling his uncle he has a request. If it looks like he is going to kill his opponent, stop him. And that is exactly what happened. The poor protagonist gets thrown back hard. Valhalla is not here to play games. That kid is completely wrecked, sprawled out on the ground. Instantly, all the soldiers swarm the man. They warn him that his actions could be seen as attempted murder. Attempted murder of royalty, no less. Adrian stands up and barks at them to back off. He insists it was his own request, though he never asked for a knockout. At that very moment, the boy loses consciousness entirely. A short while later, he wakes up in a daze. He realizes his uncle's strength is just on another level. You can't even compare it to some weak single-core trash. Fortunately, he doesn't seem to be hurt. Everything worked out in the end since he won the duel. His uncle appears, demanding to know what he had done. Now watch this. Here is where the real questions start. Valhalla wants to know what that impure sword was. He never taught him anything like that. But the protagonist just looks at him, perfectly confident. He claims he was only being true to the sword's core essence. Hearing that, Valhalla falls completely silent. He asks if the essence the boy imagines is really just killing intent. It is unsettling, truly, deeply unsettling. But even so, he needs to know the truth. Valhalla just stands there, dead silent. Then he asks if that killing intent is really the sword's essence. It's unsettling. Even for him, it feels wrong. The protagonist freezes, eyes wide. He realizes he messed up. It is still one truth that catches our boy off guard. Surprised on the spot, he says he actually thought. The guy was going to lecture him, claiming that the path of the sword is its own refinement. But my friend, the man says he is not a knight. He is a soldier, someone who walks the path of victory, not the righteous path. However, his sword is excessive, and if his killing intent runs to wild, he will not distinguish friend from foe. In any case, he will just watch to see if he gets devoured by his inner demons. After that mess, 3 whole days passed. Adrian was still training hard with that guy, asking if his name is Taylor. He mentions he did an excellent job all these days, after all, defending against A sword that cannot control its killing intent for 3 days straight is truly impressive. Right after that, the brat calls the maid, who then brings over a chest, saying he heard she did something unforgivable in the past. He does not know if this makes her feel better, but either way, she should deliver this to her father. With the training ending, Adrian says he can leave, thinking he has no obligation to clean up the mess that bastard made. But if he made someone work, it is only fair to pay the price. And so, time passes, and the prince's duels became the main topic throughout the entire kingdom. I honestly can't say whether his reputation is improving or not, even after waiting for days. The news people were expecting definitely did not come. The knight's opinion of him was starting to change, and the royal family was probably keeping them quiet. However, our main character didn't seem very happy about that, saying they were just embarrassed they lost to him and shut their mouths. These nobles really have nothing better to do. They should do something productive with their time. Hearing that, Valahard says he has no right to say something like that. At that, the boy looks at the knight standing beside him, telling him when he leaves, he has to spread the result. That way the rumors about the duel should settle down. Right then, the maid appears. There is a new rumor. People are saying he used the sword's hidden power to fake the result of today's duel. Adrian just gets irritated. He says he will just forget about it and keep training. He runs through a few sequences of strikes. His mana heart seems to be getting stronger by the second. Next, he asks how many opponents are actually left. The knight says there is only one more for today. Adrian brushes it off. The apprentice knights are no challenge now, but the guy warns him the last one is a real knight. This one truly learned the sword and was not satisfied with just polishing the family blade. She is a rare talent who joined in order to master her skill. Her name is Arwen Kurgayan. As she enters the castle, all the soldiers stop to stare. She has so many nicknames, from Cliff Flower to Thorny Rose. They say she has broken plenty of men's hearts. She is certainly a remarkable woman to make someone like her come here of her own accord. The prince must have some incredible skill. Either way, it would be wild if the prince got beaten by her. Wait, are you rooting against your own side? The Iron Lion Order is famous for competing for the top spot. Basically, it is a promise of a guaranteed spot as an official member. Adrian asks why someone like that would want to duel with him. He is told he had a small misunderstanding with her in the past. The protagonist immediately realizes he had already done something bad. Looking at one of the maids, he asks exactly what he did. She says he kind of insulted her. Now watch this. The brat gets pissed off at his own body. A flashback shows Adrian holding the girl by the shoulder. He tells her she is rather interesting, just like the rumors say. He asks if she wants to become his personal servant. And at that very moment, she removes his hand. He glances at a maid nearby, panic rising. What did he do? She says he insulted her. Plain and simple. He curses his own body. What a disaster. Flashback, Adrian's hand grips her shoulder, looking intense. Rumors say she's interesting. He asks if she wants to be his. She isn't having it. She drops her disguise instantly. She moves in, but he barely manages to deflect the blow. Finally, she steps back, stunned by his technique. She wonders what kind of sword that was. Adrian just smirks. Having mana doesn't make everyone the same. Fatty grabs her shoulder, spitting out that the Order of Knights isn't his personal property. And my friend, you know exactly what happens. The fatty loses it, calling her ugly. Back in the present, Adrian hears the whole story and just goes silent. He's thinking there is absolutely no way anyone could look at her and see anything but beauty. The girl turns to greet our hero, saying it's been ages, but he hasn't changed a bit. She doesn't seem all that happy about it, and Adrian is certain it's all on him. Just then, Valahard shows up, locking eyes with her. She greets him properly, introducing herself as a knight apprentice for the Iron Lion Knights. Then the man warns them to be careful with the prince's sword. It is pretty poisonous. Can you believe it? Another guy actively rooting against his own side. With everything finally settled, the duel is about to kick off. Without wasting a second, the girl draws her blade. Adrian is locked in. He's about to see the skills of the Iron Lion's famous rising star. In that exact heartbeat, she charges him head-on. He realizes her movements are genuinely impressive. He manages to parry the strike, but his mana starts surging in the wrong direction. Meanwhile, the girl studies Adrian's footwork, already unleashing a brutal chain of strikes. Our boy is feeling the heat. He's getting completely overwhelmed. At this rate, he knows he cannot keep this pace up. She lunges again, and right in that instant, Adrian triggers his dragon-slaying skill. Arwen notices it immediately, and this time, Adrian successfully deflects the attack. She finally steps back, eyes wide, wondering what kind of sword technique that was. Adrian tells her it seems like having a current doesn't mean every fighter is the same. Without a doubt, she is on a totally different level than those other mediocre scrubs. Now watch this. He uses the system to analyze her stats. He wonders if he can really read her with his limited power. It looks like she is an opponent equal to, or maybe even weaker than, him. Regardless, it is getting real now. The two of them charge at each other, blades ready. Time blurs, and eventually, everyone is completely wiped out. Valahard finally draws his own sword. He says that is enough for today, and the duel will have to end here. He's ready, and he isn't holding back anymore. The prince steps back, eyes wide, wondering what kind of sword that was. Adrian speaks up, noting that just because they share a current, that does not mean they are all the same, and clearly, no doubt about it, she sits on a totally different level from the mediocre crowd. Using his system interface, he runs a quick scan on her stats. She wonders if he can even parse her power with those weak limits of his. Either way, it means she matches his level, or stands even weaker. In any case, the real match starts right here, right now. No more holding back as both of them explode forward into a head-on collision. Time bleeds away and exhaustion drags every single fighter down to their limits. Valahard finally lowers his blade, calling an end to today's exhausting clash. He declares the duel finished, leaving the crowd buzzing with lingering adrenaline. Tomorrow, Adrian mutters, he was just about to finish this. The girl snaps back, saying that is a huge coincidence, because she was just about to do the exact same thing. They keep bickering nonstop, while Valahard tells them to cut it out. He says they need to stop this mess right now. It is already getting late, and those wounds need treatment. Then, right at that moment, the doctors finally appear. They start casting healing magic to mend the damage. Adrian keeps watching the girl, and surprisingly enough, she is doing the exact same thing, staring right back. They finally part ways, and Adrian swears he absolutely will not lose. A considerable amount of time passes after that chaotic mess. Some soldiers start grumbling that the duel just never ends. This is already the third day of their intense battle. Honestly, they are quite surprised by how long it is going. They had heard about Arwen's skill before all this started. But the prince, he also has some truly excellent ability. Either way, it would be good if this ended today. Right, he should wrap it up now. Let us see. Suddenly, Adrian says he has something to say before they fight. Arwen asks if he is about to apologize right now, because if that is the case, she definitely will not accept. But the boy says that is not it at all. Since they are fighting this hard, there should be a prize. If that is the case, the loser grants one wish. The winner takes it all, one wish, no questions asked. Hearing that, the girl falls completely silent for a moment. The soldiers are shocked, whispering that it is totally unacceptable. Being a member of the royal family, that is just forbidden. But the brat could not care less, asking what she thinks. She replies that even as an apprentice, she has her duties. She is part of the Leonberger Knights, loyal to the throne. She would not dare show disrespect toward your highness, but if he allows it, she will accept the bet. Adrian does not waste a single second, drawing his sword. He tells her not to complain about it later. Watch closely. I can already tell this ends badly. The two continue their duel, and as always, it is close. They were perfectly matched, trading blow for blow out there. Our boys seem genuinely excited about the fight for once. Then he decides to use that ridiculously overpowered sword skill. The girl is shocked, thinking back to how he was yesterday. Thrilled by the sheer rush of battle, the boy eyes his next power spike. Once again, he unleashes that ridiculously overpowered sword skill without hesitation. She stares in shock, knowing how drastically weak he was just yesterday. That sword style was never this fast. He was holding back. He's been hiding the true extent of his skill this entire time. The kid keeps the strike sequence going without missing a beat. Arwen stays on the defensive, unable to find an opening. She steps back, looking tired, but Adrian keeps the pressure on. That brat just refuses to give the girl any room to breathe. He delivers one more strike, and finally, a sword goes flying. It spins high into the air, clattering against the stone ground. The defeated knight stands frozen, stunned by what just happened. Even Valahard can't believe his eyes, jaw dropped in shock. Adrian, beaming with confidence, says he's officially won the bet. He raises his blade, pointing it straight at her with a grin. He says he wants her, talk about things escalating fast, going from 0 to 100 in just a few seconds. Being the escort knight to the kingdom's most infamous scoundrel prince. Contrary to what she expected, it wasn't actually that difficult. Even though he acted arrogant, he never had a malicious bone. Not like those nasty rumors claimed, anyway. Honestly, he was the complete opposite of a villain. He'd watch our hero train in the pouring rain for hours, even telling the boy that training in this weather was dangerous. But right as he said that, lightning crashed right in front. Adrian didn't even flinch, didn't seem to notice the strike at all. That was the moment she had a strange premonition. She felt in her gut that His Highness would be great. Back to the present, and the soldiers are still reeling. They're shocked by the outrageous demand our boy just made. Even the knight can't wrap her head around it, heart pounding. She wonders if she completely misjudged him all this time. Arwen finally finds her voice, asking if that is his true desire. He replies she is just an ordinary knight apprentice right now, who failed to take down a scoundrel prince in a duel. That is exactly why he wants her potential and her future. Arwen Kyrgan, he recognizes her true worth immediately. He needs a knight who follows him by choice, not royal order. Not someone protecting him because the king told them to. He wants someone who belongs only to him, his personal blade. He knows she has incredible, raw talent with that sword. He asks her once more to take the oath and be his knight. Silence fills the air as she thinks back to her past. She had become the person she always dreamed of being. Yet, no one ever treated her like a real knight. She had to work twice as hard just to be noticed. Now this prince is the first to really see her. You can see it on her face. She's finally realized her worth. She works twice as hard as anyone, but even after, crushing every single apprentice in the training yard. The goal stays out of reach. She still isn't a knight. Everything changes now. Someone finally sees her potential. He wants her, but she needs to be sure. Is he serious? She has to know. The doubt is written all over her face. Arwen asks for a single promise, the only condition she has. Treat her like a knight. Always, nothing more, nothing less. If he can do that, she's all in. Her blade belongs to him. They just stand there, locking eyes in that heavy silence. Adrian takes a breath, makes the vow, and finally agrees. Without a second thought, she drops to one knee. She swears her absolute loyalty to Prince Adrian Leonberger, dedicating her sword and her entire life to his service. It's a serious moment, and Valahard just watches it all, silent, unmoving, taking in every single word. Adrian draws his own steel, holding it high in the air. In his name, he officially dubs her his very own knight. Time flies, and she keeps grinding away, training harder. Nobody buys it. They can't believe she's sworn to him. They call him an idiot prince and start whispering rumors, talking behind her back about what they really have. Adrian catches every bit of it, watching from the distance. He starts wondering if he was really that awful before. Basically a total villain in his past life, yeah. The knight at his side says nothing, just watches him. But soon, he pulls Adrian aside for a real talk. They start picking apart everything said during that duel. Looking back to just a few days ago, right at the end, Adrian asks if he was actually upset by what went down. Brutal honesty. If an order came to leave, he would go. He'd pack his bags and vanish without a second thought. Still, he offers a chance he could make a vow later. The guy takes him seriously, asking if he'd even accept it. But Adrian shuts it down fast. That wouldn't be fun. Watching him grow up, that's the real prize. The knight just laughs, saying he gets the point. Adrian thinks he's joking, but he's actually pretty serious. A bit later, he's going through a stack of papers. A letter arrives. His suspension is finally over. Now he's got to show his face at the royal banquet. He's being let out a month and a half ahead of schedule. He can't help but think about the last time the king was there. It was a disaster, and now he has to step back into that chaos. You can see it in his eyes. He knows exactly what's coming. He acted like he never wanted to see him again. Honestly, he has no idea what that man is even thinking. The knight asks if he isn't happy the suspension is finally over. To Adrian, it makes zero difference. Even if he leaves the palace, he has nowhere to go. He doesn't know a soul here. He has no one to meet. Then, a maid appears with news. Another invitation has arrived for His Highness. Adrian takes the letter. While reading, he asks what this so-called social club for special young masters even is. Seriously, what a weird name. The maid mentions it is a club he used to be a member of. Adrian asks if it is some strange place. Just looking at the girl's face, you can already tell it is. That place is nothing but parties and drinking. Knowing the deal, Adrian tells her to leave it. He is already busy training, after all. However, he reads the letter one more time. It is from a friend named Bernardo from the Eli family. Adrian remembers what his uncle said. The family that clung to the Monoheart until the end fell about 100 years ago. Unbelievably, it is exactly that one. Now watch this. He has to go to the party now. He just hopes that family situation was not quite that bad. For months pass since he entered the body of this scoundrel prince. He has been training hard, constantly shedding weight. I have to be honest, he looks like a completely different person now. He is genuinely handsome. Adrian notes he has lost quite a bit of weight. The guy beside him mentions his measurements shrunk by more than half. Adrian says he will leave the court banquet clothes to him too. He figures his size will change again by then. Time passes once more. The boy is on his way to that so-called social club for social masters. I will never get tired of saying that name is terrible. Meanwhile, he sits in the carriage. Being a prince is really exhausting. Adrian casually mentions he will hand over his court banquet clothes too. By then, he figures his physical measurements will have completely shifted again. Time rolls forward once more, dragging the young prince toward a strange destination. He finds himself heading straight for that absurdly named social club for masters. Not gonna lie, I will never get over how terrible that club name sounds. Sitting back in the rocking carriage, he mutters about royal life being exhausting. Constantly cursing his way through brutal training sessions already drains his nerves. Just thinking about the upcoming mess makes his stomach churn with unease. All these positions, fancy carriages, and hovering escorts. It is honestly just suffocating. He glances to the side, his eyes locking onto the mate standing there. He spots a nasty wound on her shoulder and asks what happened to her. She quickly claims it is her own incompetence and something he should regret asking. Adrian already knows better, though, feeling like this body is a gold mine for disaster. He has seen this servant plenty of times, but realizes he doesn't even know her name. He asks for it, and she tells him Adelia Byron. That is basically a family that barely even registers on the list of nobles. Hearing that, Adrian thinks back to a time long before kingdoms or cities existed. Back then, it was just natural for weak humans to be robbed and killed off. But then, 5 heroes emerged to end the history of that miserable species. They turned humans into the dominant force on the entire continent. Those 5 were known as the Prince Electors. And believe it or not, one of those heroes had him as his sword. With that blade, the king of the giants was defeated, ending an age of exploitation. One of the legends who pulled that off was known as the Lady of the Iron Sword. Her name was Agnes Byrne. The funny part is, that girl used to curse like crazy while she was fighting. Just thinking about it now makes him feel pretty uneasy. Wait, this servant is probably a descendant of hers. How in the world did things end up like this for her family? Suddenly, a knight announces that they have finally reached their destination. The kid doesn't waste a second, jumping straight out of the carriage. He tells Adelia he wants to talk to her later, leaving her completely confused. Just then, someone calls out, welcoming him to the estate. It is Bernardo of the Eli family, acting like he is just thrilled to see him. You can practically hear the fake politeness in his voice, can you not? Adrian just wonders if this guy is actually the descendant of the Al family. Then the guy pipes up again, saying he must have suffered quite a lot on his journey. Anyway, that guy over there is probably a direct descendant of you-know-who. He wonders what kind of absolute disaster led things to end up like this. Right on cue, a knight announces that they finally reached their destination. Without wasting a single second, the kid leaps straight out of the carriage. He drops a quick note saying he wants to catch up with Adelia later. She just stares back, completely blank and failing to catch his drift. Suddenly, a voice cuts through the air, shouting out to our main character. Bernardo of the Ela family steps up, offering a grand welcome to the grounds. Honestly, the guy acts way too thrilled just laying eyes on him. Hearing that, Adrian squints, wondering if this is actually a descendant of the L lineage. The guy keeps talking, claiming Adrian must have suffered through a ton of hardship. Adrian blinks, wondering why this total lunatic is suddenly acting all buddy-buddy. Without missing a beat, he barks an order for the court knights to move in. Incredibly, Bernardo tells Adrian he is free to just walk away if he wants. Time cuts forward, and Adrian tells her to relax because he's not here to hurt her. The poor girl trembles head to toe, terrified of what comes next. After shedding all that weight, he just stands there. And for some reason, our boy just flashes a smile. Bernardo asks if something is weighing on his mind. Adrian says he's glad he came, and honestly, it is going to be a fun day. Bernardo has no clue. Doesn't understand a damn thing, not a word. The scene shifts to that place, that damn place. Honestly, it doesn't look like a spot for younger people. Meanwhile, the two of them are sitting on the sofa. Bernardo thinks it is strange. Usually, this guy is relentless. You know, usually he'd already be making moves on everyone. It is like the entire atmosphere has shifted since before. Right then, a nobleman beside them stands up. He says he heard His Highness won over the flower. The flower of the Iron Lion Castle. Rumors everywhere. Adrian just stares back at him, cold, silent. The man keeps talking, says she is beautiful in armor, adds that she would probably look pretty without it. Adrian asks if he has a brother or sister at home. The noble says he only has a sister, just her. At that exact instant, the protagonist levels him. A punch right to the face. Everyone is shocked. Adrian says that is great news, because now his family bloodline will not be cut off. You have to watch this. He kicks him while he's down. Man, even I felt that one. Brutal. The kid says from now on, his sister is the heir. He just keeps punching the guy over and over. Unbelievably, no one does a thing. They just watch. The noble asks why he is doing this. Adrian tells him to listen carefully to every word. He doesn't care if people think he is a bastard, but he cannot stand being treated like one. The crowd is even more shocked now. The protagonist doesn't care at all, just keeps beating him. The guy gets thrown far away. Doesn't look good. Adrian calls out to Bernardo. Reminds him what he said earlier, that today is fun. Bernardo doesn't understand anything, wondering why this lunatic is acting like this. Adrian just turns and gives the order. Call the court knights, right now. No wasting time. She stammers out an apology, asking if she messed something up by accident. Adrian sighs internally, figuring that cursed prince must have put her through hell. He has to call the court knights without wasting any more time. The guy follows Adrian's orders, and right after that, heavy, suffocating silence drops across the whole hall. The main character tells all the women they can clear out now. And naturally, one arrogant noble hates being dismissed like that. He steps up to make a move, but Adrian cuts him off cold. He only told the women to leave. Adrian warns him. If this noble wants to walk out too, he's totally free to try. But there is a catch. He'll be leaving as a woman. Total, stunned silence hits the room instantly. Adrian lays it out. They didn't even formally kneel before a prince. They showed zero respect, laughed right in his face. And to top it all off, they openly insulted his loyal knight. He wants to know what exact crime he can slap them with. Right on cue, the royal guards materialize from the shadows. Insulting royalty is a direct crime against the crown itself. Defying royal authority on top of that, that's full-blown treason. The guards ask His Highness to give the word. Who exactly should they drag away first? The young prince just smiles and says take every single one of them. Time skips forward to Adrian standing inside the king's private room. His suspension barely ended, and he's already stirring up total chaos. 14 high-ranking noble sons sitting in a cell right now. Adrian used every loophole in the book to nail them. The king asks if he even realizes what he just started. Adrian asks right back if the old man is scared of the fallout. But their own families have already totally cut them loose. Keeping trash like that around only stains house names further. Total lost causes. He tells the king to send letters to confirm it. The old king falls dead silent, finally waving him off to leave. Later on, Adrian looks at the trembling maid and tells her to relax. She shakes like a leaf, terrified she messed something up. That rotten prince must have put this poor girl through pure hell. Even the main family line knew nothing about Byron, meaning their so-called glory got wiped clean from history. That legendary martial art cut right off at the root. The prince actually says Adrian is free to leave just like that. Time passes, and Adrian tells her not to be so nervous. Seriously, he is not going to hurt her at all. But the poor thing is still trembling, scared to death, asking if she somehow did something wrong to upset him. Adrian knows that damn prince must have done some truly horrible things. Not even the family's direct line knew of Byron, which means all his glory was completely erased. That unparalleled art just cut off, like it never existed. Honestly, for all that prestige to just end up like this, all that arrogance and pride vanished in a heartbeat. But get this, that girl has some wild stats. One of them is the war craze trait, and honestly, her other stats match that girl from his past perfectly. Adrian thinks she has zero way of controlling that madness. Is it even safe to let her loose in this world? He's really weighing the risk here. But hey, he should at least try, right? After all, she has S-rank talent, which is massive. Plus, by some insane luck, she has a trait he can actually use to his advantage. It is the spirit of a slave, a trait defined by finding absolute joy in serving a master, someone she can serve with her whole heart. So, without wasting a single second, Adrian demands that the girl swear her loyalty to him. She's totally lost, trying to process what is happening. Adrian tells her he wants her as his knight. She needs to swear it right here and now. Right then, the servant kneels down, trembling, saying this is far too much for her to bear. Adrian brings up how she called her family nothing special. So, if that is true, he'll take personal responsibility for them himself. But in exchange, she must pledge her loyalty. She has to serve him as her lord. He's thinking if she can't tame that madness, he'll do it for her. The servant asks if he'll truly take care of her family. Adrian nods. If she wants, he'll bring them all to the capital. That way, she can visit them whenever she likes. The poor girl is suddenly overjoyed. Without a second thought, she immediately makes her solemn oath of loyalty. She promises to serve him and devote her entire life to his cause. Our protagonist does the same, making it official. From this moment on, she obeys his orders unconditionally. With that, everything was settled. Still, Adrian has his doubts. Did he actually make the right move here? Well, only time will tell, my friend. Because of this, nasty rumors start flying around. People say the first prince is back to acting like a scoundrel. Apparently, he forced that knights up their dirty tricks. He even summoned nobles' kids just to beat them up. And then he threw them all straight into prison. He's appointing a maid who has never touched a blade as his knight. People assume he is just trying to build a secret harem. They call it a direct knighthood, but everyone sees right through it. Meanwhile, the brat remains completely unfazed by the sudden attention. He wonders why everyone suddenly cares so much about what he does. All he did was take on a direct knight, nothing more. Even so, people have been hounding him since the crack of dawn. The rumors are spreading across the estate way too fast. Right on cue, the maid runs up to deliver some heavy news. She tells him the queen has just arrived at the mansion. The queen sighs, saying she thought he finally turned his life around. Instead, it looks like he is sliding right back into his old habits. Either way, she finds the whole spectacle rather amusing. Once he gets married and settles down, her boring days might finally end. She tells him to trust his mother to handle everything properly. She is fully confident she will find him a proper partner this time. She walks off, leaving Adrian utterly bewildered by the sudden visit. He stands there thinking he has no clue what is even happening. A little later, Adelia sits down with him to talk about the future. She asks him nervously if she could ever possess actual mana. Adrian smiles, telling her she is spot on with that guess. She is going to develop a very special, unique kind of mana. Deep down, he thinks the world completely forgot the Sword Empress. But he remembers every single detail with crystal clarity. From the footprints she left behind to the way her blade moved. At that exact moment, a strange aura wraps around the girl. The system chimes in, warning that it detects mana inside her. The energy flows deep into her body, sinking in successfully. The system flashes a notice that a mana heart has finally formed. Adrian explains that he just used a special refinement technique. From now on, she has to practice and maintain it on her own. Suddenly, our boy starts to stagger, his legs growing weak. He thinks it is pathetic to get worn out over one measly heart. Adelia rushes over asking if he is okay and why he helped her. She wonders why he would go this far for someone so humble. Adrian shakes it off, telling her everything is fine and she can leave. He quickly changes the subject, asking why she is staring at him. Without missing a beat, the girl looks up and speaks her mind, all because of creating one measly mana heart. Adelia asks if he is okay, wanting to know why he went so far. Why sacrifice everything for someone as humble as her? Adrian just says everything is fine. She can leave now. He changes the subject. He asks why she is staring like that. Right after that, the girl says she copied everything. Just by seeing it once, she memorized it all. She pledges her loyalty to him, serving faithfully for the rest of her life. The brat just gives her a smirk, telling her to keep one thing in mind. He is her master, and with that final word, he turns and leaves. Truth is, he's actually worried she might forget her place. A few days slip by. Then the knight shows up with some heavy news. He tells him that Bernardo is being detained by the royal palace guard. They're holding him as a witness to that recent incident. Apparently, nobody is allowed to meet him until the trial actually starts. Adrian speaks up, asking if he'll be expected to testify at that trial too. The guy just shakes his head. Royals don't take the witness stand. It's beneath them, he figures. The laws just work differently for their kind. Meanwhile, the maid keeps grinding away, working just as hard as ever. Adrian checks in, asking how she's been holding up lately. To be specific, he wants to know if her heart has finally stabilized. The girl nods yes. That's the answer he needed. If she's steady, starting today, she's joining him for training. He tells her to go change and head straight for the training grounds. It's high time she ditched those rags, right? A few minutes later, our boy is already at the grounds. Valhard walks up, demanding to know what he thinks he's doing. The protagonist claims he's just warming up. But Valhard isn't looking at him. He's staring right at that girl. Our hero shrugs, saying he's just following the rumors. He's basically trying to make her a knight. His furious uncle demands to know if knights seem that insignificant to him. Right after that, Adelia appears, reporting she's finished her 10 laps. Valhard still looks completely annoyed, but Adrian doesn't waste a second. He tells the girl to pick up a sword. Today is all about the basics. He's going to teach her proper stances. He starts by demonstrating the movements, then asks her to mimic him. He grabs the blade, and man, you should see her face. Her expression changes on the spot, eyes locked on the steel. Valhard looks genuinely surprised by what he's witnessing. And Adrian, he can't believe his eyes. She just copied him. Perfectly. Every single movement, she nailed it on the first try. The poor girl just asks, totally natural, if her stance was correct. Adrian realizes, with a jolt, that if he slips up, she surpasses him. It's clear now, her defining trait isn't just talent. It's absolute submission to the strong and zero respect for the weak. The poor girl just asks if her stance was correct. And Adrian thinks if he lets his guard down, he'll be surpassed. Easily, the trait she has is submission to the strong. She has zero respect for the weak, none at all. At this rate, his own weak body will be consumed, completely taken over by the soul of the demonic sword. He is already on edge since that bastard terrified her before. If she gets ahead of him now, who knows what comes next? Valahard changes his tune completely, admitting her talent. But the protagonist shuts that down fast, telling him straight not to misunderstand anything here. Valahard fires back asking what a novice could possibly do. Someone who barely touched a sword for a few months. Simply put, he cannot handle her monstrous potential. Our hero falls silent, letting the heavy quiet sink in, thinking he carries an aura that would make that coward bolt. Only he is steering this vessel now. If he cannot manage her, no one else ever will. After all, he crushed countless existences using Gruhan. Right then, the system flares to life with a warning. A fragment of that dark soul is bleeding through, driven purely by the user's sheer stubborn will. And just like that broken skill sparks back up. Valahard stands frozen, watching without a single twitch. Adrian steps up with a cold look, claiming her as his. He despises anyone daring to touch what belongs to him. His uncle stays dead silent beside them. Suddenly, our boy slips away as reality starts to warp, realizing too late that his weak body is giving way, being eaten alive from the inside by the demonic sword. A heavy door flies open, pale hands grabbing for him. He refuses to budge an inch as the vision snaps back to the present where his uncle keeps explaining. An ordinary knight saves 10 men on the battlefield. An exceptional one protects over 100 souls. But that girl could shield 1,000 or more. Then she cuts right through it all with a chilling vow, saying her body and soul belong entirely to His Highness. With that, a door opens and a bunch of hands lunge at him. The protagonist doesn't even move a single muscle. Then the scene shifts back to the present day. His uncle is talking, saying an ordinary night can save 10 lives. But an exceptional night, more than 100 soldiers. That child there might be capable of saving 1,000. Maybe even more. The potential is massive. He continues explaining, but then the girl speaks up. She says her body and soul already belong to His Highness. She cannot follow his words right now. If they hadn't forgotten, they never would have discarded her like trash. But in time, she will discover the true power of this ability. A day passes, and Adrian looks surprised. The man falls silent. Adrian figures it was worth dragging her soul over. After all, a servile nature is just destined to bow down, destined to submit to someone with a higher rank. Changing the subject, he asks Valhard if he has nothing better to do. I mean, his goal was just to lose some weight, right? But if he really wants to keep lurking around the palace, he needs to stop interfering in Adrian's private affairs. Incredibly, the man just accepts it all. Even after that day, his uncle keeps showing up at the palace, just to keep a close watch on Adelia. He can't do a thing about it now, though. Complaining and meddling are strictly off limits. Adrian finds it pretty amusing to see that arrogant uncle acting so tame. Then, right at that moment, an aura flares up around the girl's sword. The two of them stand there, shocked at what they're seeing. Adrian wonders, could she have actually mastered sword resonance already? He's delighted, telling her she did a great job. He thinks if she keeps progressing at this rate, he might actually end up getting surpassed. Right after that, his furious uncle snaps. He demands to know if Adrian really taught her the Mana Heart. Wasn't it enough for just one person to learn such a trivial technique? Hearing that, our boy just glares at him, telling him to leave. His uncle is already disappointed, though. He insists there was a much better path, massive potential he's ruined. Our boy is totally fed up by now. He orders the knight to haul his uncle away. But the man insists he'll leave on his own. With everything finally settled, Adelia asks if what she learned is really trivial. Now watch this. Adrian immediately shuts that down. That's not the case at all. The people of this era have completely forgotten what a true Mana Heart is. If they hadn't forgotten, they never would have tossed it aside like trash. But in time, she's going to discover the real power of this ability. Then a day passes, and Adrian is surprised to see him back. He thought he told him he would never return. But the man is here to prove a point. He claims he will use only a single chain. He says he thought he told the man never to come back. But the man insists, to prove it, he will use only a single chain. To sum it up, it wasn't the Mana Heart that was weak. It was the master. Not all Mana Hearts are the same. He asks his uncle if he has ever heard of a chivalric poem. The furious man shouts that this is a place to fight, not a place to stand around singing some idiotic song. If he can pressure him even a little, he will acknowledge him. Without wasting a second, our hero grabs his sword. He asks what the wager was back then. Remember that. It was basically granting any wish to whoever won. Valhard tells him that if he actually beats him, anything goes. If he asks him to hand over even the secret family technique, he swears he will do it. But Adrian says that isn't even what he wants. Still, for now, that's enough. And right at that exact moment, he charges straight at the old man. Valhard easily ducks and dodges, brimming with total confidence. He notes that the boy's been aiming right for his neck from the start, calling it a pretty cruel sword style. Our boy repeats the move, looking intensely focused. He keeps the attack sequence rolling. Valhard blocks the strike with just a lazy swipe of his blades, asking if that is really all he's got. The young man stays dead silent. Right after that, he steps back. Valhard asks if he's already given up. Adrian says no, thinking the old man is seriously annoying, though he has to admit his uncle is insanely strong. Valahard waits for him to finally release his mana, just so he can crush him into an even more miserable defeat. He concludes that with that level of mana heart, the kid is bound to lose. Soon after, the boy suddenly changes the subject. He asks if it isn't a bit strange. 400 years ago, countless knights with mana hearts pulled off unbelievable feats. Just because a newer technique showed up, those legendary skills got treated like trash. Everyone acts like the mana chain technique is leagues ahead of the old mana heart. Hearing that, Valahard demands to know where he's going with this. Adrian replies that his own view is completely different. To sum it up, the mana heart wasn't weak at all. It was the master using it, and not all mana hearts are built the same. He asks his uncle if he has ever heard of a chivalric poem. The furious man snaps back that a battlefield is for fighting, not standing around chanting some idiotic song. Adrian says he already knew he would say that, especially since he's the one who called the mana heart a low-level trick. Adrian already knew he would say that. He even called the mana heart a low-level technique. And here is where the real power difference shows itself. You really have to wonder how he plans to survive this. He looks completely unfazed, despite the man's rage. It is that cold confidence. It really gets under his uncle's skin. The tension is building, and honestly, the uncle has no idea. He has no clue what Adrian is about to unleash on him. Only mercenaries learn this. Then Adrian summons his mana. Reciting that chant, the path a knight walks becomes an achievement. Without victories, there is no pride and no power. The achievements engraved deep in the heart, and those engraved achievements turn into a chivalric poem. All of that dwells right inside the knight's sword. Suddenly, the system announces that the chivalric poem has been created. The kid thinks he's finally notched up at least one small win, something he built up brick by brick over the last 6 months. That right there is the terrifying true power of the mana heart. The kid was glowing all over, radiant with raw energy. But Valahard cuts in, saying no matter what, the result stays the same. As long as he possesses a mana heart, he'll never beat the mana current. Adrian doesn't care about any of that noise. He just charges his uncle. Valahard warns him that elven mana reverses the flow inside the heart. Instantly, our boy hits a wall, struggling against the brutal backlash, while his uncle stays completely at ease, mocking his stubborn endurance. But Adrian flashes a grin through the pain. To forge this poem, he dueled over 100 times. He endured that crushing elven mana pressure more than 1,000 times. This power was custom built specifically to shatter a knight of the currents. And right at that exact second, a massive explosion rips through the air. That is the true weight of the duel poem kicking in. Now they can finally drop the talk and fight for real. Without wasting a second, their swords crash together in a shower of sparks. Adrian surges onto the offensive, riding a wave of newfound confidence. He wonders out loud just how long his uncle can actually keep blocking this. Valahard finally coats his blade in aura, ruthlessly counterattacking. Our boy takes a sharp step back, dodging by a hair. His uncle stares in disbelief, trying to figure out how this is even possible. Adrian reminds him he already warned that not all mana hearts are built the same. But the guy refuses to hear it, calling him arrogant beyond belief. Right after that, he charges, hurling the kid hard against the stone wall, sneering that playtime is officially over once and for all. Completely furious that the kid actually managed to resist this far, he coats his blade in a counter aura, charging right at our boy who steps back to dodge. His uncle stares, completely lost on how that's even possible. Adrian speaks up, reminding him he warned him beforehand, pointing out that not all mana hearts are built the same way. But the guy refuses to listen to a single word, calling him arrogant right before he snaps. He lunges forward, slamming the kid hard against the stone wall, snarling that playtime is officially over, furious that the boy shrugged off a chivalric poem he left behind. Even at this length, it's already pretty impressive. He finally gets his due recognition, and as Adrian hits the ground, he thinks exactly what he expected. A common grade chivalry poem just isn't enough. He pulls himself together 400 years ago. The knights made a fatal mistake. They left no enemies behind for their descendants at first. They must have passed everything down perfectly intact. All the sword techniques, the methods for refining, the heart, and those glorious, legendary chivalric poems. But time wore down those brilliant, heroic feats until they eventually just faded into total oblivion. Songs about dragons nobody ever saw and giant kings that no one had heard of, in the end, they must have become nothing but empty myths. Sure, new chivalric poems could have been written, but they could never actually surpass those of the original heroes. Back in the present, our protagonist claims that a technique like mana current will never reach true transcendence. That guy fires back. That for a while now, he hasn't understood a single word of that nonsense. Adrian just thinks Valahart is a foolish, arrogant knight. It is high time for them to realize exactly how much they've lost. After all, if he doesn't know, he'll make sure to show him the true power of a mana heart user. He recites another one of those blessed chants the system warns that his current skill can't support. The grade of this poem, in the end, he manages less than a quarter of the poem's final phrase, something about cutting dragon scales. But listen, that was already enough for the kid to charge at his uncle, who somehow manages to block the attack. Now the uncle is the one struggling, thinking that if this keeps up, he's going to get consumed. At that very moment, a massive explosion rips through the air. Our protagonist is thrown far back into the smoke. His uncle is still standing, completely unshaken. The kid just watches, asking if he didn't say he would only use one ring, thinking that even after unleashing all four, he still couldn't stop his sword from being split right in half. Our boy gets back up, and Valahart thinks that should be enough. The absolute truth is that heart mana is inferior to current mana. But that isn't the case anymore. My friend Adrian says that Valhalla has been defeated with that exact power. Time passes, and our boy seems to be suffering from something. He keeps tossing and turning in bed, muttering to himself. He says all of this is because of the chivalry poem. This is the price he pays for pushing it past its limit. After all, the Dragon Slayer poem is a myth-grade technique. His heart is in pieces, but his sacrifice was worth it. It was the first poem he ever crafted on his own. He will keep standing firm, even against greater waves ahead. At that very moment, Adelia appears, happy to see him awake. She says there was a huge commotion after he passed out. She has never seen his mother look that nervous before. Besides, Valhalla asked her to report the second he woke up, but he tells her not to say a word just yet. He really needs to rest and recover from the consequences. See, the forced use of that poem damaged his spirit. If he doesn't heal it, he'll end up paying a terrible price. Memories and reality will just turn into a chaotic tangle. The boundary of his reality will collapse completely. He could go mad, endlessly reliving glory in a distorted world. To think he finally became human, only to be imprisoned again. Imprisoned once more by the memories of a sword. Time passes, and Adrian tells him Agnes Byron was a legend, a formidable swordswoman, and a direct descendant. She might even inherit the chivalry poem he left behind. The girl is shocked to have such an incredible ancestor. Adrian warns that she needs to evolve to be worthy of it. Now watch this. Here is where the real test begins. He asks her what she intends to do after mastering her sword. The girl just falls silent, lost in her own thoughts. She doesn't seem to have the slightest idea what she wants. Adrian tells her if she can't think of it now, fine. She can just tell him later, once she is ready. The girl watches in shock, realizing her ancestor is insane. Adrian looks at her, telling her she needs to evolve way further. to actually earn a rank worthy of that legendary poem. Right after that, he asks what she plans to do next. Once she completely masters the art of the sword, what then? She falls dead silent, completely caught off guard. She doesn't have the slightest clue what she actually wants. Adrian tells her to take her time and figure it out later, then turning his focus to the demon, promising high-grade materials, backed by a blacksmith guild ready to refine every ounce of it. She speaks up, promising she keep acting as his blade. Adrian is stunned, his mind racing at her words. Some poems start with a trumpet blast. Others begin with that first, heavy step into a brutal war. But the great chivalric poems, those legendary stories always start with a sincere oath, and right then, the system chimes in. It announces that Adelia is offering a poem of submission. He wonders if this is really her version of a chivalric poem. Besides, poems like this can carry a strange influence. The system confirms the surge, letting him know. A brand new chivalric poem has just been created. Look, see the size of that tree over there. That one is common class, but this poem is different. The poem of submission is a hymn dedicated to a master. It's a vow of loyalty, a bond that ties souls together. Even with its slightly servile edge, it's powerful. Honestly, who could have expected this outcome? A descendant of the Sword Queen offering a poem of submission. Just like that, he's received some totally unexpected help. He realizes that as long as he remains her target, her growth is going to bring him some real benefits too. He thanks her quickly, though he's still not quite sure exactly how those perks are going to manifest for him later. A few days drift by, but Adrian doesn't seem happy at all. His two knights are just sitting there, staying completely silent. His mother asks if he's feeling all right, concerned for him. He tells her yes immediately, keeping his true thoughts hidden. See, it's easy dealing with someone who hates this body. But having someone around who liked the original owner, that's just uncomfortable. It's a whole different kind of mess. Then his mother asks if he holds a grudge against his uncle. She insists that his uncle didn't mean to hurt him. She tells him to just let go of any resentment he has. Adrian tells her he's got no grudge at all. But his mother looks nervous. She remembers how rude he was. He complained about every little detail back then. She thinks his claim of having no grudge has to be a lie. But Adrian really feels nothing for the man now. He knows he already got his payback that very same day, when all his uncle's pride and convictions were crushed. That had to be an agonizing thing for him to endure. To put it simply, what he planted in his uncle that day was a heart demon. If his uncle manages to survive that, he'll become something much stronger than he ever was before. No exaggeration here, over half the royal family's arsenal comes from this clan. Another massive leap forward. Honestly, he couldn't care less. Soon after, his mother speaks up about the past. She claims his uncle lived closer to the sword than anyone else. That must be why the old man was so rough. Even so, he clearly left a strong impression on our protagonist. The uncle actually went out of his way to help. He personally petitioned His Majesty to intervene. It was thanks to him that Adrian was released so soon. His confinement was lifted way earlier than anyone expected. But right after he got out, that crazy incident struck. You can imagine how hard that made things for his uncle. His position at court must have become incredibly difficult. Hearing all that, Adrian finally starts to piece it together. That explains why the man acted so cold and unpleasant before. But he's still burning with one big question. Why would that guy risk so much just for his sake? A little later, an old scholar shows up with a massive pile of books. Adrian groans. He hates studying from the bottom of his soul. Right on cue, the kid throws a total fit. Why does he even have to waste time on this stuff? The old man doesn't blink, stating a harsh truth. Someone who doesn't seek knowledge is no better than an animal. Adrian bristles, asking if he's being called a beast. The man just sighs, staying perfectly calm. Your Highness has only just started his lessons. So for now, you can't even be classified as a student. Adrian scoffs, arrogantly claiming he knows enough already. He's convinced he's mastered everything that actually matters. There's really no need for him to learn anything else. The old man offers a challenge to put him in his place. Let's discuss a few topics right now. If your highness's skills are as good as you claim, I won't come back to bother you with these books again. Adrian smirks, fully confident, and takes the bait. But get this, he's already planning his next move. You always have to be careful with those behind you. People have a nasty habit of overstepping their bounds. If you give them too much freedom, they'll walk all over you. I'm still lost, but the old man just smiles. He tells Adrian everything is fine and hands him a new book. This one, he promises, will actually be interesting. The two dive back into that grueling study session. Time drags on as they grind through the lesson. Finally, the man says they will pick up again tomorrow. And you won't believe how much ground they covered. Adrian seems to have actually enjoyed it, but then a few minutes pass and he realizes what he was doing. It turns out the whole thing was just a normal lesson. Honestly, that old man is smart as hell. Meanwhile, the old gentleman is secretly surprised. He realizes the prince is nothing like the rumors say. A day goes by, and our boy is just sprawled out on his bed. He says he is incredibly bored just staring at the ceiling. He wonders if he has been way too diligent lately. With no training to do, he has absolutely nothing to occupy his time. Right then, Adelia appears to deliver some news. Lord Valahard is here, and the boy is genuinely happy to have a visitor. He tells her to let him in right away. It has been a few days since their last intense duel. It was definitely about time he showed up, right? But when he finally lays eyes on the guy, it looks like he got absolutely wrecked by a truck. He clearly has not recovered from that heart demon at all. The man stays completely silent, looking defeated. Then, unbelievably, he starts apologizing to the protagonist. He broke the promise he made to himself. Because of that, he caused the boy a serious injury. He says even 1,000 apologies wouldn't justify what he did. But the kid thinks about the truth of the situation. The treatment wasn't needed because of his uncles or a blade. It was because he forced himself to use the dragon-slaying poem. Right away, he remembers what his mother had told him. Because he caused trouble, his uncle's situation must have become complicated. Meanwhile, his uncle is still feeling completely awful. He asks what the boy wants as compensation. He says he would even give up his arm or his eye. Obviously, the kid doesn't want anything like that. He asks why he would ever wish for something so extreme. He knows that before, his uncle was at the level of a sword master. But now, he is stuck because of a stupid heart demon. The kid decides to be generous with him. He declares his first wish. He just wants to go out for a while. Now pay attention. This is where things get interesting. Valahard says that since his house arrest is over, he is free to go out whenever he wants. But Adrian shakes his head. He has something else in mind. He says that is not quite what he meant. He needs something more than just simple freedom. He looks his uncle in the eye and prepares to ask. He's talking about a day trip, but honestly, he really wants to go somewhere else. Somewhere much farther away, specifically, somewhere outside the capital. The guy says it will take some time to arrange everything. There is a banquet coming up soon, so they can't go anywhere too far. They're stuck, basically. But Adrian doesn't want to hear any of that. He insists it's not a problem at all. With everything finally settled, the old man says he'll get in touch as soon as the schedule is set. Then, the guy turns and leaves the room. Adrian immediately asks why the knight is looking at him like that. The knight says it's a little unexpected. He honestly thought your highness would demand something much more irrational. After all, the count broke his promise. In many ways, this is a rare opportunity to strike back. However, Adrian just says seeing that stubborn man act like that made him feel a little sorry for him. Hearing that, the knight starts laughing. Adrian tells him he's been getting way too comfortable lately. At that very moment, Adelia appears with news. She says the letter he had been waiting for has finally arrived. It was written by Arwen. She says she recently achieved a small accomplishment. She believes she might be able to visit him soon. She just hopes he stays safe until that blessed moment. The kid looks at the message, grinning happily. He says it came at such a good time. About 5 days later, his uncle sent the official confirmation. 2 more days passed, and then the day of departure finally arrived. In total, a week went by. The protagonist sits in the carriage and asks which territory they'll be passing through. The guy keeps up his usual bad mood. He says Adrian can't stay quiet for even a second. If he's going to explain it, the guy thinks he could at least stay seated. Basically, the place they are heading is Count Ellen's territory. It's the main weapons production center for the entire palace. They have a massive iron mine there to supply high-quality raw material. Plus, there's a huge blacksmith's guild to refine it all. It's no exaggeration to say more than half of the royal family's weapons come from that blessed clan. Adrian is honestly surprised. He thinks to himself, now that his level has risen a lot, it is long past time. Adrian realizes his level has finally shot up, meaning it is way past time to lift those old restrictions. The authority of his third eye flares up, significantly enhanced. Without wasting a second, he scanned his own body, fully realizing he has evolved to a brand new tire. Meanwhile, the boy watches the master blacksmith forge without resting. He's on a quest, looking for a blade he can truly call his own. He could have just grabbed something decent from the royal arsenal, but unfortunately, life is never that simple for him. They can't just hand over a weapon to a guy like that. They definitely haven't forgotten what the kid did in the past. My friend, considering his wild track record, it is only natural. But that just means he has to find his gear somewhere else. If he wants a real blade, he's got to look outside the palace. Valahard might not seem like it, but get this, he is surprisingly considerate. That 20-day journey is about to kick off. The route includes a quick stop in Count Ellen's territory. It sits only 3 days out from the royal capital. Then they are visiting Iron Lion Castle 2 days after that. They plan to head back to the capital once they recover. Fatigue is real, but the mission comes first. Right now, the protagonist has been sitting in that carriage. 3 whole days, he hasn't moved a single muscle. And the person sitting across from him, honestly, zero fun at all. The kid is feeling pretty disappointed. He wonders if he should check his mana heart while he is stuck here. It's empty, a nasty side effect of using that dragon poem. But it is time to start filling it back up. His senses are still incredibly sharp. He feels everything, the light breeze, the distant voices of the knights. By gathering mana fragments hidden in the air, he begins to draw them in. He's filling his mana heart once again. It's unbelievable. He actually manages to pull it off, but something feels different this time. His mana heart is much larger than before. The system warns him. He just attempted an impossible miracle. He caught a glimpse of that immense, ancient will. Adrian thinks this must be from forcing the dragon poem's power. And at that exact moment, the system drops a huge announcement. He has officially reached the rank of sword specialist. His connection to the source has improved. Some restrictions on his recovered authorities are finally being lifted. As a result, the authority of the third eye is significantly enhanced. Adrian doesn't waste a single second. He starts scanning his own body with that newfound focus. He realizes something massive. He has evolved. Adrian admits he hoped to see the finished piece before leaving. But looking at the time, that's definitely not happening. Our hero looks genuinely disappointed as he turns away, reminding everyone he used to be a sword in his past life. The old blacksmith laughs, saying he could probably become a god. The scene shifts now to Count Ellen territory. Man, just look at the sheer scale of that mansion. Someone speaks up, saying it is a true honor to meet them. He introduces himself, Edgar, of the Ellen family. The man standing right beside him is named Torrance. Adrian thanks them for their hospitality. Then the man in the red uniform steps in. He says they must be exhausted from the long journey. He offers to show them to their guest rooms. The boy walks through the massive estate. He remembers they said this place produced weaponry. Indeed, the mansion is packed with all kinds of gear, but they are only low-quality items, flashy things that would be useless in actual combat. Finding what he is actually looking for might be difficult here. Changing the subject, he asks about the Blacksmith's Guild. Is it really located within this territory? He would like to take a look at that place himself. A few minutes later, the butler speaks up. He warns that blacksmiths are rude and stubborn by nature. When work is in full swing, they ignore everyone. They would even ignore the Lord if he walked in. He tells the boy to show mercy if he finds them offensive. It is all just the spirit of the true artisan. Looking at the forge, the boy is visibly surprised. The heat is intense, truly brutal. The man asks him to speak up if it gets too hot. The protagonist just keeps watching in total silence. The flames roar as the blacksmiths hammer the glowing iron. Now watch closely. There is one particularly clear, distinct sound. The boy seems to recognize exactly what that is. He thinks to himself that this is probably it. After all, the very first memory he recalls is from his past. He remembers that he was once a sword himself. Shortly after, Adelio mentions that His Highness is sweating too much. He turns his face away, refusing to stop watching the forge. He stays locked on the blacksmiths at work. Soon, every blacksmith steps forward. They bow and greet the Grand Prince. The butler points out the one who is in charge here. That is the head of the Blacksmith Guild. He stands there, waiting for the prince to acknowledge him. You can tell by the look in their eyes, they mean business. This is where the real craft happens. Let's see if this master is worth the wait. Over at the guild, one of the workers keeps right on forging. This pissed off guy demands to know exactly what he thinks he is doing. He orders him to stop immediately and pay respect to the prince. Hearing that, Adrian just tells the man to stay quiet for a second. He looks around at these young men, sensing the truth behind their presence. It seems pretty clear they were dragged here against their own will. He says the iron is cooling down fast, so get back to work. If they plan on letting that forge fire die out, fine. They should just keep standing there like statues. Wasting everyone is time. Gerald starts forging again, and Adrian stays completely silent, watching. The guy just cannot stop staring at that blasted blacksmith. I mean, honestly, you have to admit that guy is incredible. Our lead saw something special in that young man, wondering what it was. A little later, the butler reports something strange about the worker. For some reason, he has been melting down and reforging swords. Over and over, he has been stuck in that cycle for 6 months. The boy asks if they could have all been failures, but the young man does not seem to know about that at all. Every single sword he crafts is honestly a masterpiece. He is widely recognized as a master blacksmith for a reason. To Adrian, those swords the blacksmith forged seem totally flawless. It is a complete mystery why he would melt every one. On top of that, for a month now, he has barely slept. He is basically pouring every ounce of focus into his work. Since he is not exactly young anymore, everyone is worried sick. Hearing that, the only thing Adrian can think is that he is a true artisan. Several days pass, and every single morning, the prince arrives early. He stays at the forge from sunrise until late at night. The old man just continues with his daily work, unfazed. And our boy just watches him in total silence, day after day. Now watch this, here is where the tension actually breaks. Despite all the rumors that the first prince would cause trouble, nothing happens. No incidents at all, which is honestly pretty surprising to everyone. But finally, the day of the prince's departure actually arrives. Even then, the boy stays glued to the spot, watching the forge. That blacksmith is still hammering away without stopping for a breather. Then, the protagonist admits he had hoped to see the blade finished. Before leaving, he really wanted to see the final product. But unfortunately, that does not seem to be the case today. Our hero looks genuinely disappointed, truly regretful about missing the end. But shifting gears, he asks to hold that blade for just a second. Taking the weapon, he wishes it grows as magnificent as its wielder. Taking twice as long as planned, they finally hit the road. And after a full day of travel, they reach their destination. Our hero looks genuinely regretful, carrying the weight of it all. Since he is leaving today, they have some news for him. A farewell party is happening tonight, and because of that, he has to hit the road at the crack of dawn. Time slips away, and finally, the sun begins to rise. Before long, the butler shows up. The master finished his blade. Without wasting a single second, the boy rushes to the artisan. The old man is there, carefully wiping down the blade. It is a real work of art. That weapon is truly worthy of being called a masterpiece. Then, the old man kneels right there before the prince. He dedicates the sword to the boy, leaving everyone in shock. Adrian watches closely, thinking about the process. It needs to be heated like the roaring sun at dawn, then cooled until the hue matches the royal purple robes. If that is done, a sword polished like the sun is born. I am not understanding anything anymore. Adrian keeps staring at the steel, asking if it has a name. The blacksmith says he was thinking of calling it Twilight. He wonders, the twilight of dawn, or the twilight of dusk? To him, it is twilight, but to your majesty, to you, it will surely be the dawn. Adrian notes he speaks very well for someone his age, but the man does not seem well at all. He collapses to the ground, whispering it is a relief. It is done. He finished the sword without wasting time. Our boy rushes to help the blacksmith. They have to stay the night there, just one more time. Time passes, and Adrian takes care of the exhausted man. The blacksmith whispers that the moment the prince stopped behind him. That day, the sword finally took shape as if by fate. The blade chose its own day to be born. Adrian asks if that is how he really sees it. He moves closer and whispers something to the old man. Suddenly, we don't know what it was. Maybe he was a sword in the past. The old man laughs, saying he could probably even be a god. Now, he finally understands everything. He asks to hold that sword for just a moment. Taking the hilt, he wishes it becomes as magnificent as its wielder. And right after that, everything changes. He was actually a legendary sword in his past life, right? The old man mentions he could probably even become a god. But anyway, everything is finally starting to click for him now. He asks to take a look at that blade for just a moment. Taking hold of it, he wishes for the steel to truly shine. He wants it to be as magnificent as its wielder, nothing less. The protagonist grips the old man's hand. It definitely will, he promises. And just like that, my friend, the old man passes away. It's a sad end, sure, but he goes out with pure honor. He finished his masterpiece of a sword right before the final breath. A short while later, that blessed blade is already wrapped up tight. The butler speaks up. He cannot measure the true value of such a sword. He's looking at the craftsmanship, the soul poured into the steel itself. Still, he doubts it's actually suitable for His Highness to carry. By complete coincidence, he has another magic sword ready to offer. He asks Adrian to accept the gift, trying to steer the conversation. Adrian is genuinely surprised. It's a good weapon, he notes. Even if it isn't top tier, it's an excellent mid-grade blade. But get this, he tells the butler the first sword is better. A master poured his own soul into that forge. That's a magnificent gift. Besides, Adrian already intended to walk away with that magic sword anyway. Hearing that, the butler realizes the massive mess he's walked into. He has no choice but to accept it all, sweating under the pressure. He tried to use the second blade as bait to recover the master's work, but now he's unfortunately ended up giving away both weapons. Honestly, the guy really messed up his own scheme here. A little while later, everyone is already getting organized to return. They're heading back to the royal city, and our boy watches in silence. Soon after, Valahard tells him to get ready to move out. They plan to ride fast today, aiming to reach Iron Lion Castle by nightfall. But here's the thing, Adrian casually admits he doesn't know how to ride. Everyone is shocked, but honestly, it makes sense. The kid wouldn't know how to handle a horse. He used to be a sword. Time passes, and the journey hits some unexpected bumps in the road. But fortunately, everything works out, even with the delays. It takes twice as long as planned, but they finally reach the destination. There it is, the imposing sight of the so-called Iron Lion Castle. Right after they arrive, a bunch of soldiers swarm the entrance. One officer steps forward, announcing that York of the Willow family greets the prince. Watching the situation unfold, Adrian notices something off. Ma'am, those soldiers don't look happy to see them at all. There's obviously a darker reason for that tension brewing in the air. It took twice as long as they had originally planned. But finally, they reached their destination after a full day. That right there is the so-called Iron Lion Castle. And right on cue, a whole squadron of soldiers swarms the area. That guy stepping up, he announces that York of the Willow family is here to greet the Honorable First Prince. Watching this unfold, Adrian seems to have caught onto something. And man, those soldiers aren't looking very happy. Obviously, there is a reason for all this tension. Right then, the protagonist starts laying on the taunts. He calls out to Arwen, and the girl instantly lights up. She greets him back, admitting she had been counting down the days. She was beyond eager for this exact moment to see him again. Now look at the crowd. Everyone around them is literally boiling with hatred. They are absolutely dying to go after the protagonist right now. And in a wild twist, the exact same thing happens with Adelia. That Adrian, seeing the tension rising, places a hand on the girl's shoulder. She seems to have returned to her senses, the fog finally lifting. It was a smart move, really awakening her survival instincts early. Soon after, Adrian calls out to Arwen, asking her to follow him. He needs to talk, and he's got a lot to get through. He figures it might even be better if those guys tag along too. A little later, our lead is holding a sword, eyeing the room. He says he wants to test the Iron Lion swordsmanship for himself. Word is they're the best in the kingdom. He wants to see why. He scans the crowd, openly asking who's got the guts to fight him. The soldiers start bickering among themselves, clearly caught off guard. Adrian just watches, cool as ever, waiting for a taker. He tells them if his royal position is a burden, don't worry. He guarantees, in the name of Leonberger, that no one faces consequences. He dares them again. Is still no one going to step forward? Who would have thought the legendary Iron Lions could be this cowardly? That hits home, and one soldier finally decides to accept the duel. That redhead over there, his name is Dale. He's far from being the best Iron Lion, not even close. But he stammers that if permitted, he'd dare to face your highness. Adrian just shrugs, telling him there is nothing to worry about. After all, he was the one who sent out the invitation. Without wasting a second, the soldier charges straight at him. The kid stays completely calm and effortlessly blocks the heavy blow. Poor Dale is having a rough time, struggling to find an opening. And in that same instant, with the greatest ease, he's sent flying. You have to admit, our main character is just ridiculously overpowered. Adrian doesn't slow down for a second, signaling for the next one. That other guy tries to step up and confront our boy. But unfortunately for him, he meets the exact same fate. Time keeps passing, and the kid just keeps dominating the field. One guy gets tossed aside. The man in charge is honestly just ridiculously overpowered, and Adrian doesn't waste a second before calling for the next challenger. Another soldier tries to step up and confront our boy, but unfortunately, he meets the exact same fate as the last one. Then time skips ahead, and we see the kid, who was. He's tearing through every soldier foolish enough to step up. Honestly, he's already getting bored of this warm-up. A moment later, every last one of them is sprawled out. Adrian's losing his patience, ready for a real challenge now. He wants to take on the official members, not these guys. The boy calls out to Arwen, telling her something bold. When he finally heads back to the capital, she's coming along. Arwen stays silent, but she accepts his order just like that. You can tell she trusts him. It's a big deal. Suddenly, another soldier steps up, claiming he heard rumors. Adrian supposedly loves a good bet, so he wants one. A little wager to liven things up, he says. But Adrian sees right through it. He's not falling for this. He shuts the bet down fast. He's not having it. Arwen isn't some tournament prize to be gambled away. If they're betting, it needs to be something else entirely. He draws his new sword, holding it out for them. He tells the guy that if he wins, he gets this blade. He'll hand it over personally. A direct challenge. Everyone is stunned by what the protagonist just offered. Arwen tries to step in, but Adrian cuts her off. He tells her she is far more valuable than any sword. A true sword master's worth is beyond any weapon's price. That's just the kind of guy he is. The short-haired soldier grins and accepts the wager. He introduces himself as Dunran from the Fahrenheit family. He brags that he's just about to reach the triple current level. Adrian hits him with a reality check. That just means double current. Dunran is furious, his pride clearly stung. He reveals that his weapon is the 17th sword ever crafted, made by the legendary artisan known as the Sword Master. If he wins, the blade goes to His Majesty. Adrian just laughs. It's a complete coincidence. He draws his own weapon, ready to end this. He happened to receive a sword from that same master. This one is the master's 100th work, a masterpiece. Dunran scoffs, claiming he's never heard of such a thing. He doesn't believe a sword like that even exists. Adrian explains that the blade was only finished a few days ago. Dunran summons his mana current, eyes locked on his opponent. He tells His Highness that he's walking the wrong path. Still, he admits he can see the relentless effort in every step. Out of respect for that, he's going to go all out. He's not going to hold anything back in this fight. Adrian just nods, and the tension hits an all-time high. He's talking nonsense, but that doesn't change a single thing. This place, it was never his home to begin with. He stands tall, declaring the only respect that matters is the loyalty coming from his own people. He summons his mana heart and turns to Adelia. Watch closely, he tells her. This is the path you must walk. The girl begins to shine, eyes wide, hanging on every word. I swear it, she cries out. I will do as your highness wishes. A little later, the scene shifts to an entirely different location. Valahard looks around, asking how many times they have hit this castle. The Iron Lion Castle, to be exact. 4 times in total, the guy beside him answers. The 4th prince has 0 interest in the crown, so he's out. The 3rd and 5th princes showed up when the heir was locked away, and the 2nd prince stopped by not long ago, too. But regardless of his reputation, he is still the kingdom's rightful heir. Things have reached boiling point, and the responsibility is massive. If the commander of the 3rd Legion had just offered some support, he wouldn't be standing here so isolated right now. Why act like his protector now, of all times? The man knows there is no lie in those words. He did turn his back on his nephew, and he knows it. Back then, the boy looked more like a future tyrant than a leader. He even remembers the day he caught the kid drunk on evil elixir. The brat had the nerve to swing a sword at him. A total scoundrel, honestly. He thought the kid was hopeless. When he finally retreated north, disappointed, his nephew sent a gift. Poisoned wine. Can you believe the audacity of that brat? He burned away that cheap poison with his own mana. And in that moment, he burned away his last shred of affection. But get this, the boy he thought was doomed to fail did a complete turnaround. He started enduring brutal, harsh training. He's actually been growing stronger day after day. Then the man looks over and asks, "Wasn't that Valahard? Basically a hopeless scoundrel." And when he returned to the north, his disappointed nephew sent him poisoned wine. The kid even had the audacity to call it a gift, but as he burned away that cheap, suspicious poison with his mana, he also burned away the very last bit of affection he had left for that boy. But that same scoundrel he thought would never change ended up doing the complete opposite. Suddenly, he was enduring harsh training, growing stronger day by day. Then the man asked if it wasn't Valahard. The man himself said the first prince shouldn't ever be king. Yet his own uncle had already changed his mind. He figures the child he is now has nothing to do with the past. He asks for the young man to get a fair shot. Let him start from the same line as the other princes. Valahard actually starts begging for it. The guy just doesn't know what to say. He wonders if he changed or if the first prince did. Suddenly, a soldier kicks the door open. You just know this is going to be bad. They walk through the castle a little later. The guy next to him says there is no reason to worry. His soldiers know their own limits. He claims nothing will happen no matter how intense the duel gets. He would never let a royal family member get knocked out. But the guy says the prince is not the one to worry about. It is his knight who is in trouble. And just like that, it happens. Out of nowhere, the guy is sent flying. He ends up completely wrecked on the ground. Everyone is shocked that His Highness has won again. The guy beside him cannot understand what is happening. Valahard says he already warned him. The protagonist doesn't stop for even a single second. He raises his sword and tells the next one to step up. A flashback shows the protagonist fighting the short-haired guy. He thinks his current duel style just isn't enough. He definitely cannot use the Dragon Slayer technique on a normal knight. The young man activates his mana heart. His body no longer feels like his own. Now watch this, that exact same feeling from back then returns. The kid is basically entering a state of deeper concentration. At that very moment, their swords clash. Back in the present, the guy is literally sent flying. Time passes and Adrian keeps crushing every soldier in his path. It is almost nightfall and the boy is still going, feeling like his own, and unbelievably, that exact same sensation from back then was hitting him again. The kid was basically entering a state of deep, focused concentration, and at that very moment, their swords clash. Back in the present, that guy gets absolutely sent flying. As time moves on, Adrian just keeps taking down every single soldier in his path. A little later, night starts falling, and the boy, after taking down so many knights, he starts reciting a dual poem. Then the system hits him with a notification, a brand new verse. It's evolving right in front of him. From a morning poem, it's shifted into something else entirely. A poem of pure battle. The boy is about to collapse from the strain. But one of the knights reaches out, steadying him. He wants to pay his respects to the victory. He says, "To the victory won by your highness." Every single knight salutes the protagonist right then and there. He's completely confused. He doesn't get it at all. A moment ago, they were ready to tear him to pieces. Meanwhile, Valahard and that other guy watch from a distance. The man says they're simple folk at heart. Nothing gets them going anymore. He mentions nothing except the sword and the thrill of victory. Right after that, Valahard speaks up. Judging by his face, he thinks our boy expects resentment from these soldiers. But look at them. An honest defeat is worth more than a dirty win. Winning or losing doesn't really matter to them. Hearing that, Adrian realizes something. He thought everything he knew had been forgotten, left behind, right along with Mena's heart. But it seems at least one thing stayed the same. Regardless of the win or the loss, the spirit of the knight remains. Some time passes. Adrian is already preparing to head back to his kingdom. He says he hopes they'll meet again someday. With everything settled, the boy moves to climb into his carriage. But he stops, calling for the count. He asks them to keep his activities here a secret. Willowden asks if making it public wouldn't be better for His Highness. But Adrian shakes his head. This case is different. He actually wants to play a little prank on someone. A short time later, the soldiers settle down for a rest. Kara says he'll go scout the perimeter. Meanwhile, Arwen is just watching our boy in silence. She doesn't look too happy about things. Adrian figures she adapts soon enough, though. Anyway, he really needs to get some rest himself. He walks into his tent and finds Adelia waiting inside. The kid still hadn't fully recovered from the day. Looks pretty happy. Adrian thinks he will adapt. Soon enough too, anyway, he really should get some rest. Right, so he heads into the tent. Adelia is inside too. The kid still hasn't fully recovered. He'd assumed he recruited an S-rank genius, only to find her stuck doing maid chores. The guy's completely drained, just looking for a moment of peace. Soon enough, Adelia checks in, asking if something's weighing on his mind. He brushes her off, insists everything is fine, just keeping it together. He can't help but think how different these Iron Lion Knights are than he expected. Back then, he used his appraisal skill and saw their sword talent rarely hit B rank. Most of them would barely reach an average level, even with a lifetime of brutal training. They were just commoners, destined to die in vain, but look at them now. Today's recruits hit the level of a sword expert in just 20 or 30 years. The talent gap shifted, superhuman abilities dropped, while commoners saw an exponential leap. It's likely down to the mana current in the air, he realizes. And his uncle, a man who, in the past, could have easily reached transcendence. That's why he was so annoyed to see that potential going to waste. But then again, this era offers zero opportunity for truly extraordinary feats. In the end, it's just a broken era, and he's forced to admit he doesn't know it well. He needs to step back and reevaluate everything from the very beginning. Right on cue, Valahard shows up, telling him that's the right attitude to have. He says it's not too late, and if he really grinds, he can still reach his dream. Valahard gives him credit for winning over the Iron Lions already. He notes that most other princes would have failed to get along with them so easily. Calling it a wise decision, what is this? He thinks. This guy is acting way too nice. It feels genuinely weird, and he's completely lost, wondering what happened to his uncle. He even asks him point blank if he's finally lost his mind. His uncle just smiles, asking if he's already forgotten the conditions of their bet. You know, that whole deal about defeating a current knight in a duel. Valahard keeps his word, declaring that as commander of the 3rd Legion, he's officially supporting the prince. So for that reason, he'll have to reevaluate everything from the very start. Right after that, Valahard appears, saying, "That is the right attitude. It is not too late. Yet, and if he keeps pushing himself from now on, he will be able to achieve that dream of his. He has already won over the Iron Lions, proving that any other prince wouldn't be able to get along with them so naturally. It's clear Adrian made a really wise choice here. But wait, why is this guy being way too nice? It feels weird." Our protagonist is completely lost, wondering what exactly happened to his uncle. He even asks if the old man has finally gone crazy. His uncle just stares back, asking if he forgot the terms of their bet. The deal was simple: defeat a current knight, and he would keep his word. He announces that Valahard, commander of the 3rd Legion, is officially backing the prince. Oh boy is instantly stunned, eyes wide at the sudden declaration. He wants to know when exactly he said he wanted to be king. But time doesn't wait, and his uncle's public statement hits the kingdom like a bomb. Everyone starts crawling out of the woodwork to congratulate the kid. The place is a complete mess, and our hero just wants to clear the room. He orders them to leave, but Carl refuses, claiming they have royal orders. If they won't go, Adrian at least demands they get out of his sight. He finally catches a moment to rest, but it doesn't last long. His brother shows up, furious that Adrian moved behind his back. He's even more triggered because Adrian secretly learned swordsmanship from Count Valahard. My friend, the brother made a huge mistake here. He thinks he's going to make Adrian pay dearly for playing him for a fool. The protagonist barely knows how to respond to that outburst. After all, he never wanted anything to do with the throne in the first place. Suddenly, we flash back to Adrian making his original stance clear. He told Valahard he would play along for now, but only for the moment. He made it plain he isn't interested in anything involving the crown. He asks why Valahard started this chaos without even consulting him. Valahard just smirks, asking if the boy is actually worried about him. After all, he is the shield that protects the kingdom from those northern monsters. But he warns him, as long as the royal family and nobles remember their place. He knows he made a truly terrible mistake back there, and he is going to make him pay for every second of it. After all, making a fool of him was a massive mistake. The protagonist barely knows how to even respond to that threat. He never wanted anything to do with that cursed throne anyway. Then, right at that moment, a sudden flashback hits. Adrian is there, saying he will just play along for now. But he needs to be crystal clear about his own position. He has absolutely zero interest in anything involving the throne. He asks why Valahard started this without even consulting him. The whole plan feels like a mess he never asked for. Valahard hears this and asks if he is actually worried. After all, he is basically the shield for the entire kingdom. He is the one protecting everyone from the northern mountain monsters. However, there is a catch, as long as they remember. So long as the royal family and nobles do not forget. Despite the biting winter, the manor will hold. It'll be fine. Anyhow, it was always just a matter of time. And this was bound to happen sooner or later. Just ask him. Does he really not know the fate of a firstborn son? The one who doesn't inherit the throne. And honestly, the situation won't change just because he keeps hiding. If he needs time to face reality, he'll get it. As much as he needs. But he has to remember one thing. The legitimacy of the eldest son doesn't just vanish. Not unless he dies after that whole tense talk. His uncle leaves the room. Adrian speaks up. No matter how much time he gets, he won't change his mind. See, what he really needs to regain is something else. His authority and his power, which had reached transcendence. It's not about some petty right of succession. Or at least, that's what he thought. Right in the middle of that party, our boy makes his entrance. And you can tell immediately the atmosphere is suffocating. The spotlight shifts to our protagonist. Everyone stares. There's even a hooded figure watching him from the shadows. That's how this banquet kicks off. Man, I've got a bad feeling about this. Something awful is brewing. Adrian walks down the stairs, looking around. He wonders if these are really the kingdom's finest nobles. The funniest part, they all carry the serpent heart trait. It's a mark for those who steal and trample on lives without a thought. The only ones worth watching are that little group up front. When Adrian goes to greet Taylor, he notes they should have talked beforehand. He thinks that even if the guy lacks great talent, at least he isn't corrupt. Either way, that's enough for now. Starting today, they'll serve as vessels for planting the seeds. Wait, what kind of dark story is this turning into? Just then, a soldier appears. He announces the arrival of Ambassador Kind de Bergen-Montpellier. Damn, what a ridiculously long and complex name. Everyone bows to the old man immediately. He's clearly a high-ranking noble. Then the man speaks up, saying it's been quite a long time. Hearing that name, Adrian seems genuinely surprised. At the same time, a memory flashes back. Adrian thinks back to the truth behind those words. A realization starts to dawn on him right there. You can see the gears turning in his head. This isn't just a simple banquet anymore. Things are about to get complicated. This is the man they fought for 400 long years, a name that left countless scars on this entire country. And even so, he dared to show up right before him. At that very moment, a noble suddenly trips and man, he completely soaks the main character. The guy apologizes and Adrian just stares, simply saying it is fine. Changing the subject, he asks Karl who that man was. Kara says he is Marcus Bielefeld. Then Adrian says it seems not everyone is completely rotten. Thanks to that, his head cooled down a little. A few minutes later, the main character is washing his face. His uncle appears, looking at him, and mentions that Marcus Bielefeld said he looked like he was about to cause trouble. Apparently, he was not talking nonsense. And man, the main character is almost losing it. His uncle asks what he was planning to do. He replies that he is not that stupid. But there was one thing he just could not understand. The wicked house of Bloodline flaunts its power right in the heart of the kingdom. The nobles revere them even more than the royalty itself. There is too much tension to call it peace, and far too one-sided a relationship to call it an alliance. Asking how the hell the country got to this point, his uncle says there is not any particularly special story. He mentions that in the past, as the kingdom resisted many invasions from the empire, the knights rose up to repel the enemy. However, as time passed, the empire kept growing and the gap between them only widened. And faced with an empire that had become a superpower, the kingdom ended up with no choice but to kneel. Hearing that, Adrian immediately thinks it was probably because of that. See, here is the thing. Despite being a small country at the edge of the continent, the kingdom had something that allowed it to stand against that powerful empire. Since the nation's founding, achievements had piled up, along with myths. And they must not forget the poem of the knights. However, all of that was lost. And right after that, the protagonist says he changed his mind. The enemy empire kept on growing as time marched forward. The gap between them, it just kept getting wider. Faced with a true superpower, the kingdom had nowhere to go. In the end, they were left with no choice but to kneel. Adrian hears this and immediately thinks he knows why. Maybe it was that despite being just a small country, tucked away right on the edge of the continent, that kingdom actually possessed something incredible. Something that let them stand tall against such a massive empire. Since its founding, the nation had piled up legendary achievements. They had their myths and that famous poem of the knights. But get this, all of that history just vanished into thin air. And right after that revelation, the protagonist speaks up. He says he's changed his mind. Standing tall, he drops the bomb. He is going to be king. Valahard is stunned. Adrian keeps his thoughts to himself. He knows he might regret this, but he has to do it. After all, he basically built half of this kingdom from scratch. He laid the foundation with his own two hands. A bit later, our hero heads back into the banquet hall. The nobles look anxious, whispering to each other about something. Adrian watches them. Honestly, their etiquette is just sloppy. A foreign noble would be treated way better than this mess. He remembers back when his friends stood before his own people. Nobody then ever dreamed he would eventually claim the throne. He scans the room, wondering if she recognizes him yet. He was just a simple country kid from some remote village. Yet he steps forward anyway, right in front of everyone, doing it exactly the way he is doing it right now. The boy starts reciting the old knightly poem for the crowd. Compared to those Dragon Slayer ballads, it is pretty bearable. Still, this is the best shot he has at this moment. And damn, the stakes couldn't be any higher than this. Suddenly, a crown and cape just manifest out of thin air. They appear on the kid, and everyone goes dead silent. They all lock eyes on our boy, and honestly, it is intense. Without wasting a second, the entire room drops to their knees. Finally, bow down. That is much better, Adrian says. He tells them they can raise their heads now, but suddenly, he feels this strange, different kind of energy in the air. Looking to the side, he spots that mysterious, hooded girl. She pulls off the hood and man, she is actually an elf. She says she is surprised someone still remembers those poems. Adrian seems to recognize her, wondering what that lunatic is doing here. Elves, the most beautiful creations shaped by the gods. A kind race that supposedly does not waste a single life. Humans see them as gardeners of the forest, living for centuries. But in reality, that is just a pretty face they put on. They are actually a cruel people using beauty as deadly bait. They lead their opponents straight to their own ruin. High elves born at hero level are dangerous, but she is something else entirely, a being nearly 1,000 years old. An ancient high elf named Sigrun, standing right before you. She was part of the expedition that slew the dragon centuries ago. And get this, she was obsessed with possessing the main character. Once her master was killed, she wanted him for herself. Adrian is wondering if she has somehow recognized him already. Right after that, she asks if they have met before. She says he looks kind of familiar to her. Adrian doesn't waste a second. He just shakes his head. He claims it is his first time ever seeing an elf. She keeps staring at him, and Adrian is internally panicking. He knows Sigrun was one of the most powerful creatures of her time. Did she catch on to who he really is? Then, out of the blue, the girl approaches him. She asks if they have met. He looks awfully familiar. Adrian doesn't even hesitate. No point in wasting time. He just shakes his head, claiming it is his first time seeing an elf. She keeps staring him down, eyes sharp and blinking. Adrian thinks back. Sigrun was easily a top-tier powerhouse back then. She was one of the strongest creatures of that entire era. 400 years back in the Sword Era, he shudders. He can't even picture what kind of monster she's turned into. Then, she drops a heavy truth. She says humans usually react to elves in two ways. The first time they see one, most mortals let themselves be totally seduced, just like that. But then, there are those who have mastered their own discipline, keeping their guard up. But honestly, she sees that your highness hasn't hit that level yet. Adrian just brushes it off. He's got different tastes. A quick jab that clearly makes her nervous. She pulls her hood back up, hiding that reaction. "A pleasure to meet you," she says, even if it was only for a short time. She finally vanishes, leaving Adrian alone. He lets out a breath. He survived, at least for now. A short while later, the real headache begins. A whole parade of girls showing up for him to choose. Man, there is even a child in this lineup. The whole room is a disaster. His mother keeps going, lecturing that a future princess must be wise, virtuous, and 1,000 other exhausting things. I couldn't listen to that woman anymore either. Suddenly, a soldier interrupts. An elf delegation is outside, officially requesting an audience. Right at that moment, that same hooded girl steps forward, announcing that Sigrun, the Mistletoe tribe, greets our beautiful Queen Margarita. Finally, we get a name for this woman. She says it has been ages since the elves stepped foot in this kingdom, and honestly, it is pretty surprising to see them here. Sigrun points out that your majesty is hunting for a bride for the prince. She pulls back her hood, revealing she's a high elf. In our terms, think of her as part of an ancient noble lineage. And get this, her age isn't even that different from yours. You can already see exactly where this is headed. Now watch this. Here is where the tension spikes. She heard elves who keep their beauty that long are the ideal partners for humans. See, what did I say? She claims that from the moment she saw the prince, she felt their fates were finally aligning. This is moving way too fast, right? Our boy is completely stunned, thinking elves never lie when they talk about fate. Wondering if that was sincere, Margarita just listens. She is surprised. Then, the entire hall erupts. Everyone starts whispering, dying to know if it is true. Adrian does not waste a second. He takes her hand. He says they must speak alone, and very quickly. A few minutes later, Adrian calls out to her. He demands she state her true objective here. She claims it was only to strengthen ties between their tribes, to bridge the gap between her people and the kingdom. Adrian is not buying it. He says he will ask again. He brings up High Elf Sigrun, the executioner. She has carried the karma of her race's slaughter for centuries. With the sword of the Mistletoe tribe at her side, he asks if her real mission is investigation or perhaps execution. That hits hard. The girl's expression changes in a heartbeat. She asks how he knows so much about her past. Adrian watches in silence. He knows the truth now. She is a monster's strength he cannot even begin to measure. If she sensed a destiny in him, it means one thing. She is at a level high enough to glimpse his soul. She can see the past engraved deep within him. But watch this, here is where the tension breaks. The girl says he knows she is an executioner. She does not get why he would remain silent before her. It is stupid. She says pure madness. Adrian warns her. He understands the danger all too well. He knows that talking too much in front of an executioner is idiotic. He tells her to stop this mess right now. Do not interfere in his destiny, he commands. He thinks she must only feel curiosity toward him at this point. If this continues, his human destiny will be wasted. Wasted in the hands of a total lunatic elf. If that is the case, he has to provoke more interest. He needs to make sure he stays on her radar. Sigrun asks him who he really is. He says he is just a pathetic prince right now, abandoned by his own father, left to rot. If she is curious, he tells her to just wait and see. That surprises her. She admits she knew something was strange. They would not send her on such an idiotic mission otherwise. But now, finally, she understands exactly what she is dealing with. She insists she knew something felt off from the start. They would never send her on such a pointless, idiotic mission. But now, watching him, she finally starts to understand. And he finally realizes everything that happened leads straight back to him. The protagonist just wants out, but he still sees her as pretty and stable. Too much chaos around her. He just needs to get away. A moment later, the scene shifts to the king's hall. You aren't going to believe this. They're actually holding hands. There they stand, right in front of the queen. Adrian steps up, ready to drop a bombshell. He declares he's accepting the engagement with her. Now watch this. Things are going from 0 to 100 way too fast. Even he didn't think he'd ever say her name like that. With such weird, sudden familiarity. The queen clearly thinks this is way too important to rush. She needs time to weigh all the options. But for Sigrun, that's just time to grow and mature. And for the protagonist, it's the perfect window to get strong enough to escape this insane elf. A little later, we cut to the other prince. He's absolutely furious, shouting that the only advantage his brother has is a birthright. Their uncle just flipped, swearing support and taking the Iron Lion Fortress flower. Now the guy is chasing after that same elf. Doesn't matter, though he's got a duel scheduled soon anyway. And he definitely doesn't have good intentions. The moment of the duel finally arrives. That was fast. Honestly, the pace is just wild. Oh, boy is totally calm. Well, the prince is talking big. He brought a whole crowd, asking if his brother likes the show. He really hopes he doesn't disappoint the audience. Adrian just sighs. He noticed it before, but this guy talks way too much. The pissed-off brat charges straight at him. Adrian doesn't even flinch. He mentions that he was only going to play around a little, but he's been way too busy lately for games. The prince hits the ground in just a few seconds. Everyone watches in pure shock. Even the other knights can't believe it, wondering if this is really the first time they've seen his true strength. He notes to himself that she really does talk way too much. That angry brat snaps and charges straight at Adrian. Adrian barely flinches, just shakes his head at the display. He was only planning to mess around with the kid a little. But hey, he has been way too busy for games lately. The poor guy hits the dirt in a matter of seconds. Everyone in the room just watches in total, stunned silence. The other knight looks just as shocked as the rest. Is this really the first time they have ever fought? The prince knows it's over. Everything has been settled. The duel is done and the winner has already been declared. Adrian doesn't waste a single heartbeat, leaving that place at once. Sometime later, rumors start spreading like wildfire. The word is out Prince Gruhan actually lost to Adrian. Soon after, the boy wakes up, demanding his gear be ready. He's heading back to settle the score once and for all. Seriously, this guy just doesn't know when to quit. Meanwhile, another knight appears with some heavy news. He reports that the prince left the capital in a rush. Count Valahard took him away immediately following that duel. They headed north, where the Valahard family estate lies. They're on the road to the legendary Blessed Place now. Valahard tells him he's gotten pretty good at riding a horse. Adrian brushes it off. That's not hard at all, he says. Changing the subject, he asks why the rush to leave. The banquet just ended a short while ago. After all, he should be resting, taking at least a few days off. But Adrian knows there's no place for him in the capital. He has zero intention of staying put in that city. Not with people who refuse to recognize their own master. They're just busy licking the boots of the Empire's dogs. Besides, he fits in way better with knights than those nobles. His uncle notes they aren't as calculating as the nobility, but they are much more conservative, stuck in their ways. They keep that boring conversation going as they travel along. His uncle mentions he can't help feeling this is reckless. Adrian just tunes it out. He's got his own path. If he takes too long, he'll end up marrying that lunatic. Everyone in the past who did that met a bitter end. He needs to gain real strength before that nightmare happens. To speed up his growth, there's only one specific place. It's where all humans are tested to their absolute limit. The place where all those great martial poems were born. You guessed it, he's talking about the battlefield. That's where he'll forge his future, no doubt about it. Valahard points out those peaks, the frozen Blade Mountains. It's the frontier his family has protected for their whole lives. Now watch this. The reality of the cold hits hard. The protagonist is shivering, grumbling that he'll get used to it. He glances to his side and sees Arwen right there. She seems to be struggling with the biting cold too. Adrian checks on her, asking if she's doing all right. She says she's fine, holding her ground despite the frost. Adrian tells her if it gets too hard, just switch out. Knights aren't supposed to seek comfort, and Adrian thinks it's a good thing. At least someone on this team is actually motivated. Meanwhile, everyone else is busy complaining about being dragged here under royal orders. If Kale were here, he'd have dealt with their whining in seconds. A quick flashback hits, the king's voice echoing, telling them off. The royal knights aren't his personal soldiers, and that is why Kale couldn't head north. Even if this body has made plenty of mistakes, it is still his own flesh and blood. Honestly, the king's attitude feels a bit excessive. There's definitely a story there. Suddenly, Valhalla barks an order to pick up the pace. If they don't, they're going to get trapped right in the middle of this storm. Time keeps ticking, and Valhalla demands they ditch the heavy carriages. They're switching to horses, then moving on foot. It's the only way. Adrian notes the guy even used mana just to project his voice. Now watch this. Adrian calls for Adelia, helping the girl down in one smooth motion. Arwen appears out of nowhere, checking to see if he's doing all right. The storm is howling, getting stronger by the second. Adrian is getting fed up, his patience wearing thin as the wind screams. He orders Arwen to guard Adelia and yells at the idiots to drop their shields. Keeping those shields will just let the wine toss them away like toys. He tells them to drop every bit of heavy gear, keep only the swords. Every single step into that gill feels like wading through thick mud. To make it worse, the men are already completely drained. People are starting to collapse, lagging behind in the chaos. Adrian charges back to the front, scoops up a fallen man, and just hauls him. This guy is an absolute beast. He doesn't even break a sweat. They keep pushing forward, fighting for every inch toward their destination. Finally, the fortress looms out of the mist ahead of them. The funniest part, the damn storm just stops the moment they arrive. The sky clears up instantly, as if that whole nightmare was just an illusion. Valhalla steps up to the gate, projecting his authority. As the ruler of this place and commander of the 3rd Legion, he greets the prince. The kid looks around, genuinely happy to have finally made it. Things are getting messy, and Adrian is pulling ahead. He walks over and hauls the fallen knight to his feet. Man, this guy is an absolute beast when he gets moving. They keep pushing forward toward their final destination. After a long march, the massive fortress finally comes into view. The funniest part, that crazy storm just died the second they arrived. It is like the weather knew they were here. The sky clears up instantly, bright and calm. Like the whole storm was just some weird, twisted illusion. Valahard steps up to the gate, projecting true authority. As the ruler here and commander of the 3rd Legion, he officially welcomes the first prince to their lands. The kid looks around, grinning like he is having the time of his life. His uncle welcomes him right at the gates of Winter Castle. This place, a massive, ancient fortress buried deep in the far north of the kingdom. It is the ultimate anti-monster stronghold built to hold back the tide for your average soldier. Getting posted here is a total nightmare. Nobles from all corners of the world might obsess over the political prestige of Winter Castle, sure. But for the people born and raised in these halls, it is a place that defines a lifetime of duty and pride. The man standing there says his name is Vicente, starting today. He is stepping down from his role as acting commander to lead the ranger company once again. He is just glad his father has finally returned safely. Valahard says he did an excellent job. Neither I nor the protagonist can believe it. We are wondering if his uncle actually had a son this whole time. Now that I think about it, they really do look identical. And to make matters worse, their personalities match too. Right after that, Valahard introduces our protagonist, saying this is Prince Adrian. The boy bows, introducing himself as Vicente of the Valahard family. Looking down at him, Adrian says, "It is a pleasure to meet him." But Vicente is furious, thinking that Winter Castle is a sacred fortress of true warriors who risk their lives for noble causes, not some playground for an idiot prince kicked out of the capital just to wander around with women. Things are already starting off with major misunderstandings. Vicente still wants to know why he had brought his father there. He is practically demanding to know what the hell is going on. His father replies that, as you heard, he decided to become the boy's mentor and will be staying in the kingdom for now. Still not understanding a single thing, his son asks if he hadn't abandoned the protagonist because he was an idiot. Hearing that, the old man looks away, saying people are destined to change. There is only one thing he really wants to ask of him. He should try to observe our boy without any kind of prejudice. Time passes, and Valahard asks how the mission to clear monsters from the villages is going. Vicente reports that they have been steadily reducing the numbers, but plenty still remain. Some spots are still uncleared, and with his father here, things are moving. Our boy just stands there watching the whole conversation go down. The guy speaking explains the core issue. The group of orcs, a small pack, fewer than 20, have taken the mountain pass. At that size, it is a massive headache for the rangers. Standard bow tactics won't cut it against a force like that. That is exactly why they are pulling knights from the castle. Suddenly, Adrian steps in, cutting right through the tension. He announces that he will handle this mess himself. The man next to him warns that these aren't your typical orcs. If this goes sideways, the Rangers' operation could be completely compromised. Hearing that, Adrian turns to his uncle for the real intel. His uncle demands the specifics, size, and strength of the enemy. They have spotted 20 so far, but the threat is evolving. No warriors or shamans confirmed yet, but you cannot rule it out. Valahard turns to Adrian, asking if he's actually confident in this. Vincent jumps in, pointing out that this is a vital ranger route. If it turns into a battlefield, their future work becomes impossible. Plus, if anything happens to the prince, Valahard's position is toast. Adrian listens, thinking his uncle raised one seriously sharp son. They keep hashing out the strategy while Vincent looks sour about it. A little later, our hero breaks the news to his own knights. He tells them they have their mission: subjugate the orc pack. 20 enemies, 1 target. Let's see who is actually ready. One guy tries to wiggle out, claiming his job is just escort duty. Adrian just smiles. That is perfect, since they have to follow him. If they want to protect the prince, they are coming along. With the plan locked, Adrian heads out, lost in his own thoughts. Like it or not, these are the soldiers assigned to his command. Now watch this, he is going to have to whip them into shape. They look like a disaster, but they are supposed to be the elite. A short while later, our hero is clearly feeling good. He breaks the news to his knights with total confidence. He explains the mission: they have to subjugate the orcs. The enemy count is confirmed, exactly 20 monsters. One guy there tries to back out with an excuse. He claims his only job is to escort the prince. Adrian just shrugs. That's great news, he says. They have to follow him if they want to protect him. With that settled, the real work is about to begin. The young man walks off, thinking about his new team. Like it or not, these are the soldiers assigned to him. He's going to have to whip them into some real shape. They don't look all that reliable at first glance. Still, they are elites picked by the family. At the very least, they should have some decent skills, even if some of them seem a little bit suspicious. Their specialty is interrogation and disguise, pretty strange for guards. Right, a little later, the man guiding our lead appears. It is Vicente himself, offering a serious warning. He says the prince might not realize what is coming. If this operation fails, he faces a massive obstacle. The two just stand there, tension thick in the air. You can feel that healthy rivalry sparking between them. Suddenly, a system window pops up right in front of Adrian. It warns that viewing this knight's status is impossible. Adrian immediately realizes what he is dealing with here. This guy is at least a triple chain knight. Only one knight behind them is a genuine ranger. The rest are knights pretending to be ordinary scouts. They probably plan to handle things on their own. But Adrian is going to ignore that for now. They don't know him, and he isn't wasting time. Without further delay, the mission is officially underway. As they move, Vicente advises them to save their energy. Conserving stamina is vital for what comes next. If they run out of fuel, their limbs will freeze. They will not be able to fight properly if that happens. The guy keeps lecturing, clearly a fan of his own voice. Adrian thinks he is even more talkative than his father. Then, at that exact moment, they hear a noise. One of the soldiers reacts instantly without any hesitation. He grabs a spyglass and spots more orcs up ahead. Those monsters definitely do not look friendly at all. The soldier asks for orders on how to proceed. And of course, my friend, they are ready for blood. They're planning to charge in all together. And right then, one of the orcs spots them. The whole group turns, staring straight at our protagonist. He thinks to himself, it's been such a long time. Instantly, a volley of arrows flies toward the monsters. They strike true, and at that same moment, our boy draws his sword, leaping over one of the incoming attacks as he drives his blade into that beast. He realizes this is exactly what he had always craved. After all, the battlefield is his life. At that very moment, Arwen appears, warning him. It's too dangerous, but he tells her not to interfere. The boy keeps his sword raised, remembering how over 400 years ago, the orcs were not monsters, but one of the proud masters of the continent. This is no myth, and no hero's tale. There existed the song of a poor man who hated the orcs. Adrian uses one of those chivalric poems once again. Man, a massive aura bursts into the sky. The boys stood ready for battle right then and there. At that exact moment, a flashback cuts through. The redhead says he heard people die easily at Winter Castle, but the guy tells him not to worry. There won't be any reason to fight at all. He asks what that useless prince thinks he is going to do there. He figures the prince will just hide away inside the castle, trying to steal the achievements belonging to his maternal uncle. The most important player isn't the prince, it is the uncle. All the spy needs to do is watch Winter Castle's movements. Report back straight to him if anything looks suspicious. Handing over a heavy bag of coin, he asks if it can be done. Full of absolute confidence, the guy says of course he can. But back in the present, reality hits the exact opposite way. The battle is still raging hard all around them. The poor spy is trembling with sheer terror, totally lost. In pure desperation, he lunges blindly at one of the monsters. He gets subdued in a single second. Right then, Arwen steps in and takes down the creature with ease. A massive beast crashes heavily onto the ground. She warns that this is a real battlefield, no place to let your guard down. The guy accepts her words without a single word of argument. No time to catch his breath, though the chaos is still tearing through. Arwen shouts for all the remaining troops to brace themselves. Their numbers are huge, she thinks. This is going to be brutal. Hard to handle with just the handful of men they currently have. But look closely. Right at that moment, a blade spears straight through a monster's chest. Everyone watches in total disbelief. Our hero is not messing around out here. The kid stands right in the thick of the swarm. He doesn't look even the slightest bit afraid. Without wasting a second, he charges right into the next wave of orcs. Another memory flashes through his mind. A burning thought that no matter how many times that person died, it just wasn't enough. Everywhere, he stands right in the middle of all those monsters, and he doesn't seem even the slightest bit afraid. Without wasting time, he charges at the other orcs. A sudden flashback floods his mind, whispering that no matter how many times that person was killed, it simply wasn't enough. It's always the same. He wandered through these lands, hunting for his enemy. A barren hellscape completely overrun by orcs, the Manhwa. Inside, his heart had run dry a long time ago. Yet, this cursed soul didn't stop for even a second. Every step he took, he just kept getting older and weaker. That demonic sword gripped in his hands was the only thing pushing him forward. He was burning through his remaining life force to honor an old man's final, desperate wish. He was just another broken man caught in the grinder. In his past, he lost his wife and his daughter to that race. Just another damn cycle of endless revenge. Finally, after all this time, he tracked down his nemesis. But get this, he was already completely spent by then. Still, he lunged toward the creature, though he stood no chance. Ending that cursed cycle right there was impossible. Overtaken by age, the man collapsed hard to the ground. Even then, he refused to give up until the very end. It was just one more story that never got told. And not a single soul ever knew what he sacrificed. He was a sword back then, and only he remembers the truth of everything that actually happened. But back in the present day, all the orcs were defeated. At least on this side where our protagonist was fighting. Right, my friend, because across the other battlefield, everyone was still struggling to hold their own. Adrian grips his sword, suddenly remembering something important. It is that so-called poem of vengeance, an unfinished song. He needs to finish that verse right now. No time to waste. He charges straight into the orcs. He's completely focused on the carnage around him. Suddenly, the system pings, a new verse added to the poem. Reciting the damn thing, he declares he stands before these monsters to honor that man's departed soul. The system confirms the poem of vengeance is now a requiem. Looking to the side, he sees the slaughter has ended. Vincent snaps a banner in half, shouting that the orcs are completely annihilated. The victory is finally theirs. Adrian asks if that guy isn't called Vincent. That man from earlier really threw his life away in the past, desperately hoping for a chance to finally set things right. And honestly, that kind of commitment, it hits different. He gave everything he had, leaving nothing on the table. Adrian watches him, feeling the weight of that sacrifice. It is a heavy reminder of what this war truly costs. But there is no time to mourn, not with enemies still left. The total wipeout of those orcs, and to think this guy shares that exact same name, almost feels like some wild twist of fate, because that old man always swore in his next life he would completely obliterate that whole race. Right after that, Vincent steps up holding a deep red banner. He tells the main character to take it, explaining the battalion rule. Whoever fights the hardest gets to claim the enemy flag as a prize. A trophy of absolute victory that nothing else could ever replace. And the rightful owner of this one, none other than our hero. Suddenly, Arwen calls out, "Your Highness," praising his insane bravery on the field. All at once, every single soldier drops to one knee and bows before him. The kid beams, holding that banner high up in the air. He announces to everyone that they crushed those orcs for good. Finally, the whole army acknowledges our hero, welcoming him home to Winter Castle. Not gonna lie, the kid is stoked about winning that banner, claiming loud and clear that it belongs to him by right. Then Vincent chimes in with a smug grin, saying he's got 16 of them. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. It's a flex competition now. Adrian watches in silence for a second, totally ignoring the brag. He just fires back that his banner is still rightfully his. A few minutes later, the whole camp goes up in flames. Vincent remarks that considering they faced elite orc units, casualties were low. Arwen sighs that even so, losing anyone is still a tragedy. But Vincent shrugs it off. Victory is tribute enough for the fallen. Bathing the spirits of the dead in enemy blood is just how Valahurs operate. Hearing that phrase, our boy freezes, staring hard at the young man, wondering if this guy could actually be the reincarnation he's looking for. Narrowing his eyes, he asks if the 3rd Legion has been tailing them. Vincent smoothly brushes it off with a fake excuse about running into Rangers. Adrian plays along, calling it a massive coincidence. But he doesn't buy a single word of it for a second. Arwen says that even so, it's still a pity. But Vincent argues that victory is tribute enough for the fallen, consoling the spirits of the dead. With the blood of their enemies, that is how the Valahar family handles things. Hearing that, our boy immediately seems to recognize that young man, wondering if he could be the reincarnation of that very person. Right after that, he asks if the 3rd Legion had always been trailing them. The guy comes up with an excuse, claiming they just happened to run into a troop of Rangers nearby, so they joined forces. Adrian remarks that is an incredible coincidence, but of course, the kid isn't going to buy that. Clearly, Vincent didn't show up. Trust him enough to set the whole thing up in secret. Right then, Vincent calls it strange an elite orc troop all the way down at the foot of the mountain, and not a single ranger caught there. Movement, either way, retreating to the castle is best. Not long after, they make it back safely. Valahar meets them, beaming. He tells them they did an excellent job and congratulates them. Adrian is still acting hype because he grabbed that flag. Man, this guy is honestly getting on my nerves. You can see the soldier saying he has done it for the 11th time, but he just gets straight up ignored. Vincent tells his father that the orc combat unit appeared way too early. Maybe they found some massive prey, or something went down deep in the mountains. Honestly, neither situation looks good for them. Right after, his father says he would love to let him rest, but the situation is just too urgent. He asks him to follow along for now. Everyone starts heading into the castle, and at that exact time, Vincent looks at our hero, saying that his performance out there was truly impressive. Hearing that, our boy is totally lost, wondering if he doesn't think the guy is acting pretty strange. Arwing just says it is because he is a cold man, who probably felt embarrassed to flip his attitude so suddenly. At that exact moment, Adelia shows up, clearly happy he arrived back safely. You already know what is coming next, right? The kid picks up the flag yet again and asks if she knows what it is. My God, I really cannot take this anymore. Then time passes, and Vincent says that in a few days a scout unit will be organized to investigate the situation. Up in the mountains, they have no idea what is going to happen in that place, so they plan to select only elite people who can professionally explore the terrain. That is the reason His Highness does not need to get involved in this mission. The protagonist asks why he came to his room, just to repeat what was already said. At the meeting, the boy says the commander personally ordered it, and right then, Adrian. At the meeting, the boy says the commander personally ordered it. Right then, Adrian looks, realizes his uncle was probably trying to push them close together. Though to be fair, that really isn't so difficult. And after sending the guy away, the kid falls deep into thought. Looking once again at that flag, please don't start this again. He thinks about how deeply immersed he was during that battle. It was his first time reciting an epic poem in full. He is definitely going to experience similar things in the future. The poems he has aren't exactly his to begin with, but in any case, he has to make them truly his own. At that very moment, our boy hears a strange noise. Looking to the side, there is a little bird sitting right at the window. But my friend, that little thing doesn't look friendly at all. Adrian thinks it is pretty obvious who actually sent it. And right at that same second, the bird starts talking. It asks him if he liked the special gift she sent over. Adrian looks at it horrified, demanding to know something. Was that entire battalion of orcs at the foot of the mountain because of her? She casually replies she only wanted to give Your Highness a worthy adversary. She says she hoped he would receive this little gift warmly. Adrian thinks about the dozen patrolmen who died because of this stunt. Yet she is standing there talking as if nothing happened at all. Elves just love watching everything from a safe distance away. They must have loved seeing them fight the orc battalion they lured there. So this is what those elves call pure goodwill. Right after that, he tells her to stop stalling and speak her mind. The girl complains he is very cold, but says that it cannot be helped. Unrequited love always hurts, so she will just wait for him. She will wait until the day he finally opens up his heart. Whispering right into the kid's ear, she drops some heavy news. Deep in the mountain range, there is something he desperately needs to see. An ancient being is currently sleeping hidden in those very mountains. If he plays his cards right, he could write an amazing poem out of it. At that exact moment, the little bird starts to twist and deform. The girl's voice fades, saying her magical connection is running out. Right then, the little bird just drops dead on the spot. Adrian thinks that woman is completely annoying to the very last second. And honestly, it is painfully clear what she is after. Across those mountains, thinking if he takes advantage of this situation, he could write a very good poem. At that exact moment, the little bird begins to deform, and the girl says that her connection is already fading out just then. The little bird drops dead. Adrian thinks that woman is annoying to the very last second. It is obvious what she wants. After all, she wants him to craft a brand new heroic chant. Either way, he decides to play along with her little game. A bit later, Vincent mentions something interesting about the patrol men. They wander in and out of the mountains like it is their own backyard. But even so, they only stick to the outer edges. Because anyone who dares go deeper, they never come back. Their actual mission is just to stop monsters from spilling down. They are not out here exploring the dark unknown. Adrian asks if that really means nobody knows what lies inside. Back in the day, legendary knights unraveled every mystery for transcendence. Yet that mountain place stayed completely untouched, a living taboo. Still, sizing up the situation, he's glad he checked it out. Vincent quickly warns him to stay far away from those debts. Adrian tells him to relax. He has no plans of walking into a trap. But come on, you already know how this goes. He totally is going to explore it, just not right this second. A short while later, polishing his sword, the mystery pulls at him. It really makes you want to drop everything and go look, right? Except he needs more battles and more victories under his belt first. Then, out of nowhere, Valhalla blows a horn across the camp. Instantly, everyone snaps to attention. It is an attack. The knights rush to their positions, and our main character steps up. His uncle points toward the distant mountain pass as soldiers scramble down. Adrian squints, wondering why the scouts are fleeing in such a panic. And right here, things take a wild turn. A massive swarm of orcs bursts out, riding howling giant wolves. Our hero realizes something is seriously wrong with this picture. His uncle notes that those beasts should have caught them way sooner. The retreating soldiers push hard toward the safety of the gate. One guard yells that at this pace they are all dead meat. He decides to stay behind alone to buy time for the rest, so his comrades can make it back to the castle walls alive. The poor guy holds the line, but it is a losing battle. Even his sacrifice is not enough to save everyone from the slaughter. And just like that, the entire camp watches in horror. Something feels off. His uncle says those monsters should have been here. They should have caught up ages ago, but the soldiers keep moving. They keep pushing toward the gate, and that one guard there. He says at this rate, they're all going to be slaughtered. If that's the reality, he'll stay right here and hold them off. Anything so his comrades can make it to the castle safely. And just like that, the poor guy passes onto a better place. But even that sacrifice wasn't enough to save them. None of his comrades made it out alive. Everyone was watching. They took hostages. Now they're challenging them to a brutal duel. Looking down from the wall, Valhalla gives the order for every soldier except the border guards to pull back. Off the ramparts while the warriors watch in sheer despair. Adrian demands to know if he was dragged here just to witness this defeat, and his uncle admits the truth. Because this whole disaster was a trap from the start, and sending reinforcements would only mean feeding them to the enemy. Vincent steps into the light, pointing out that normal human logic means nothing to monsters who place zero value on their own lives, since a brutal war of attrition is exactly what they crave. And with winter barely beginning, impulsive moves will get them all killed. Right as the horde of beasts starts marching straight toward the gate, a soldier peering through a spyglass catches sight of a familiar face, realizing in shock that one of their own men is somehow still alive, though it hardly changes the grim reality of the endless monsters ahead. Valhalla watches the frozen horizon, muttering that this winter feels entirely different, while our main character wonders darkly if that cursed elf is pulling strings again. And right on cue, a massive orc towers above the rest of the horde, letting out a deafening, earth-shaking roar that echoes across the battlefield. Vincent warns that the monsters are about to execute the captive, but our hero grabs the kid by the shoulder, cutting him off flatly, telling him that execution isn't the game they are playing today, because what they are looking at is a formal challenge to a duel. And the pieces finally click for Adrian as he remembers the elf warning him about an ancient, forgotten power sleeping deep within those mountains. When out of nowhere, the giant beast opens its mouth and actually speaks, declaring in a deep rumble that it will fight with honor to restore its legion, all for the glory of their great king. Valahard stares in disbelief, asking if the orcs really took a hostage, just to force them into a structured duel. Adrian confirms it with a cold nod, though neither commander wants to buy it. So he tells them that if words won't convince them, he will settle it himself, stepping right up to the edge of the wall to accept the challenge publicly. shouting out the terms that everyone except the duelists must fall back a full 200 paces and dismount their war wolves immediately, leaving the giant orc staring up in shock, wondering how he even knew. Adrian says that's exactly what's happening, but nobody believes him. Neither of them buys it for a second. He says, "Fine, if you won't believe my word, I'll show you." He climbs to the top of the wall. Our hero shouts down that he accepts their challenge. Everyone except the duelists has to retreat 200 paces back, and they have to dismount from those wolves right now. At that very moment, the orc looks totally shocked, asking how he knew their language with everything finally settled. A human actually speaking the tribe's language, guessing he might carry the blood of his people. But Adrian says he never learned any of that stuff. Asking what he plans to do, the Ak agrees in turn, warning him that if he dares try anything funny, stain an honorable duel and he will never forgive him. The protagonist asks if they believe him a bit now, but the two of them just stared, totally lost, having no idea what he was even talking about. However, at that exact same moment, they finally got the picture. Literally all the orcs pulled back, leaving behind only the one stepping up for the duel. Valahard says he has spent dozens of winters out here and has never seen anything quite like this. Adrian tells him to save his shock for later. The bastard's demands are simple: 5 fighters for the clash, but they must come from those who fought at the mountain range. Right away, the group starts mapping out their strategy. Adrian turns to Arwen and says two spots are already locked down. The soldiers panic, calling it way too dangerous. But the kid asks who else could possibly parley with the orcs. Besides, he couldn't just turn down someone that hyped up. He asks Arwen if she can handle it. Without a second wasted, she says absolutely. A few minutes later, Valahard wants to know where he picked up the tongue, spending his whole life thinking those creatures couldn't even talk right. Adrian just tells him to hit the books more often, knowing only the noble orcs serving the king speak the ancient words. With everything locked in, the group prepares to step down from the wall. The battle squad is finally chosen and ready to roll. Now things are getting seriously intense. The protagonist figures there aren't many real coincidences in this world. Yet right when he arrived, an elven voice appeared out of nowhere. And for the first time in 400 years, the Orc King marched from the north. Honestly, he has no clue what's actually waiting for them. Everyone started moving back from the wall. The group heading into battle was finally decided. Man, things are starting to get interesting now. The protagonist thinks there aren't many coincidences in this world. But the moment he entered, Alvin, who never visited the kingdom, appeared out of nowhere. And for the first time in 400 years, the Orc King emerged. From the north, honestly, he has no idea what's really going on. But one thing is clear, that kid isn't messing around. Coming from the north, he honestly has no idea what he's in for. Whatever's happening right now, this isn't the time to overthink it. The long-awaited moment to fight has finally arrived. And our main character steps up feeling pretty damn confident. The king of the orcs watches him in dead silence, asking him straight if he's really the opponent. Adrian fires back, asking if he doesn't like what he sees. But honestly, it's the exact opposite for the beast, because his spirit shines the brightest among all these men. On top of that, he's clearly the worthiest target. That body of his must be a rare delicacy. The main character chuckles, finding it kind of funny. The very first one to recognize his strength without prejudice. And of all things, it turns out to be an orc. Vincent instantly calls out that the thing is way too strong, begging to step in and fight in his place instead. But there's no time to waste on that nonsense. After all, another fight is already waiting right there. Those monsters don't look ready to sit down and chat, so both of them drop straight into battle stances. Adrian notes that orcs don't wait around to duel like knights. Charging forward, he tells everyone to do whatever it takes to survive. As time ticks away, The brutal battle rages on. Honestly, it's impossible to tell who holds the upper hand. The main character lands a solid blow on the ORC King, but it barely leaves a scratch, having almost zero effect. The monster laughs, calling it a shame. Such pitiful strength for a spirit like his. The kid summons his mana heart, declaring it's time to get serious. A heavy aura wraps around the entire battlefield. Adrian realizes something deep in that heavy pressure. The emotions stirred by hundreds of soldiers match the exact feelings of that vengeful wanderer, the one who used to roam those empty plains long ago. The more he turns it over in his mind, the more certain he is that coming here was right. Unleashing all his power, he thanks the monster for waiting, mentioning it will serve as a fine offering to grow stronger. Right now, this kid isn't messing around at all. This kid isn't messing around, he means business.